one of the writers and several directors of Jimmy Neutron, one of our favorite childhood series, absolute favorites during the golden era of Nickelodeon. So excited to have you here, Mike. Thank you for coming on.
I'm glad I'm here with you.
Dude,
guys.
we've been wanting to do this for such a long time. When we first started our podcast, you were one of the first people I think a lot of us thought of having on. It was like, we got to get Mike to come on and talk about his stories.
The day that Hunter and I were talking about starting a podcast, I was like, Hunter, you need to meet Mike Gasaway, and he has to be our first official guest.
Yeah, I mean, we've indirectly met. I've taken some courses of his, and we've collaborated without knowing it. I just never had a
Did you guys
direct
both
meeting.
get A's?
Yeah.
I can still change that.
Oh man, I'm gonna just sit back now and be quiet. So Mike, how you doing, man? You know, how's life going for you right now?
Pretty good. Yeah, I mean, got a lot of stuff going on. You know, semester's finally kicking in, and that's good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an old pro at this now. You know, so I'm kind of on autopilot. You know, at this point. So
what is it you do? And I guess for anyone who doesn't know, like, background on yourself real quick. Like, what is it you do?
Well, I was born in 19... Oh, you want to start back that far? Or
Yeah.
what I'm doing
man,
right now?
You're leading this dance.
Right now, I'm part of the DMC, the Digital Media Collaborative, and I've been a part of it for, I want to say now, 4 years, I think. You know, my old age, I keep forgetting, you know, how many years it is. It was 4 or 40. I get them confused. Yeah. But I basically teach animation, you know, so anything to do with animation. I was teaching like a screenwriting class when I was here. I was teaching directing class. Two things that I know how to do, don't know how to teach well. So it's different. It's totally different. Now with animation, I've been teaching for 14 years, something like that. Even when I was doing the show.
Yeah.
You know, so it might even been longer than that, actually.
Even when you were doing the show.
Even when I was doing the Neutron show, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's so awesome. I mean, just to imagine getting taught by not even just someone who was on Jimmy Neutron, but you guys were the first animation series for Nickelodeon ever. I mean, like that's a pretty big milestone.
Yeah, the 3D one. Yeah.
Yeah, for 3D.
Right.
Yeah,
for 3D
yeah.
animation.
Yeah, for CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we might as well get into that now. Like, what was it that? Because I think that's fascinating too. Like, what was it that was so appealing at the time for the CGI route?
Wow. To me, because I can't draw very well. So thank goodness the computer does it for me.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was appealing, actually. I mean, because, you know, I had been in animation for a long time before that. You know, so about 6 or 7 years, I think, before that, before getting on the show. I always wanted to do something longer form. Right. I worked at Disney for a while, and I worked at Naughty Dog doing a game for a while.
Jack and Dexter, no less. That was one of my favorites, man.
Wait, how long were you at Naughty Dog?
I was only there for about 6 months.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because the thing is that when I got hired there, I worked at Disney for about 3 years, and when I got hired at Naughty Dog, I first thought I was just going to animate. And you've heard this story.
Yeah.
So that when I got in there and they said, oh, yeah, you're also going to model your character and you're going to rig your character, you know, so and I said, I can't model a sphere. And so I didn't want to be there. And then that's when I found out about Neutron before it became Jimmy Neutron.
Wow.
Damn, I didn't know Jack and Daxter
Was it Johnny Quasar whenever you had first gotten
Yeah,
hold
it was. It was that runaway rocket boy kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, at that time they had already sold the show. It was originally going to be a series before a film.
Oh, really?
And yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then Steve Odekirk, he was the one that kind of shepherded it.
Yeah.
John Davis is the one that wrote it. John A. Davis. He and his partner Keith Alcorn are the ones that formed this company called DNA Productions, and it was in Dallas, Texas.
I'm Paul.
Exactly. Well, Paul is the funny thing is Paul is a storyboard artist.
Wait,
Yeah, the three-eyed monkey. Yeah.
You know how many people still use that as like a
Anytime I hear the word
reference?
Paul, I actually think that.
I used to just make that was just an inside joke in many of my friend circles. I don't know about you guys, but like all the time, just whenever I heard the name Paul, it was just, hi, I'm Paul.
What about the Spanish version though?
What is it?
Hola, soy Pablo.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, we did that. We even did one backwards. We did it backwards too.
Bro, I gotta get a clip of that. I didn't know. I mean, yeah, it's in multiple languages. So yeah, that dude Jack and Daxter was a huge game for me because I didn't know you really dabbled in
Although
that.
I will admit, there was one level I couldn't fucking get past, no matter how hard I tried.
That's not my
your
fault. I
level.
left way
Blame
early.
Mike. Yeah, it was Mike's fault, dude.
Way early. I just animated. That's it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what got you? I don't know. Like, tell us about the process and like jumping on Neutron and like starting up one of those, because we were talking earlier about how big Jimmy Neutron was to us. And
it was huge.
And it was for you. You were just kind of like, I never thought of it that way. I mean, now you probably realize it, the cultural impact it had. But for us, I mean, there was like a Mount Rushmore of animation growing up on Nickelodeon, at least, right? And
absolutely.
From SpongeBob to Klasky, how do you pronounce it?
Chupa.
Yeah, they're all on all their stuff, and then DNA's, Neutron, and Hillenburg, SpongeBob. I think I said that already.
Timmy Turner. I mean, like
Butch Hartman was big
too.
too.
Awesome,
It was genuinely the golden era of Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
And what's unfortunate about those that, especially for you as a creator, you don't know you're in that until it's past, until it's gone.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, you're able to look back at it well, I'd imagine.
I just would, just basically, we're just giving you the wheel. Like, what was it like? Like, just talk to us about the process of when you came on and like how intimidating it was, how crazy it was.
Okay, now I wasn't the creator, so I just want to be clear with that. But I came on as a director. I mean, how it originally started though was after I left Jack and Daxter. I came to, first of all, where in the hell is Dallas, Texas? But I loved it when I was there. I mean, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I got there, and I think they had like 8 or 10 animators that were already there that had worked on a lot of the other shorts that they did. And they also did a show called Olive, Olive, the other reindeer. Olive, the other reindeer.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, it's like cutout animation.
I knew you would see. Allison's our animation. Usually, if you're not in the room, she's our animation expert. Because
I'm definitely not an animation expert.
She watches everything, dude.
And like all foreign, like I watch any type of animation from anywhere
Like
or anybody.
Yeah. No, later we're gonna have you guys do a little bit of knowledge.
She'll blow me away.
Dude, she's crazy.
To work on it, I don't know too much about, so.
Yeah.
But when I was there, there was probably about 8 animators, and there was 10 of us that got hired around the same time. Mm-hmm. And so when we all got together, it was kind of cool though, because like it was all from different experience levels too. Mm-hmm. And like one of the guys, actually, one of his films called Mosley just came out. I want to say a month and a half, 2 months ago. It premiered in New Zealand, and he came. Yeah, he worked on the California Raisins, if you've seen those animation, talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah, right. Dude.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
That's crazy.
But we all came together, and within a week, we had to learn out how to animate the rigs, how rigs can be.
Right. Allison's like, Logan like,
rigs, bro.
We know all about rigs. The only rigs we know
I took his intro into animation class, and every day we were always trying to figure out how to get the rigs to work. Yeah. And my laptop half the time would crash.
And you were my very first class, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's on rails now.
I was like the first for your animation classes at UC.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Figuring things out.
She's a pioneer. So.
Yeah. They used to ride these babies for miles. That's crazy. All right. Yeah. I didn't know that.
So about 10 of us all came together. We had to learn how to animate with these characters in a completely different animation package, too, than I've ever used. And then we started getting shots, right from the start. I did 2 shots in about 2 weeks, and the director came and said, "Do you want to be an animation supervisor?" And I said, "What the hell's that?"
Yeah.
I was like, "I just like to animate."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, you'll be in charge of making sure that all the other animation looks like just one animator did it." And so there were 2 of us that started out there. We also had an animation director, and so we were both under him. And throughout the film, the other animation supervisor went and did something. One went to LA, and then we had 2 others that came, and then they kind of left also. But I was there from almost the beginning of animation, so for the film.
I mean, no less that animation, what you guys made with that movie. I mean, it was freaking Oscar nominated, man. I mean, that's ridiculous.
And here's the crazy thing. Actually, if you want to say it, we were the first 3D film ever nominated. Because that year, alphabetically, J came before I, or whatever the other one was.
Monsters Inc.
It's also
the
Shrek. I mean, so alphabetically, we were first.
How did that feel when you found out that you were nominated for an Oscar? How did that feel?
I remember still today. The house that I was in my living room was 2 stories high, and I literally hit the ceiling because I jumped so high.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know I had those leapers. Yeah, but
wow.
I did. I jumped. I didn't jump that high, but. When I saw it, I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah, dude, that's
cool.
mind-boggling.
Way
man.
cool.
Well, I know that Paramount really had an awesome campaign for it too. It was really personal.
They did.
They were just calling people up on the phone. Just like,
did they really? I didn't know
that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was looking into some of the campaigning for it, and it was just a very personal campaign to push it, especially because of the CGI animation at the time.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it kind of blew people away at the time. I remember, like for me, like it was hard to appreciate when we were younger, but like looking back, it's like, yeah, wow.
Right.
I was reading something
all the time. Yeah.
Roger Ebert I mean, he literally, and this is what's really cool. He gave it 3 out of 4 stars, which is huge from Robert.
Oh,
Roger
I see. I
Ebert.
didn't even know that.
Dude, which that's and he said this is like one of the most innovative forms of animation I've ever seen, and it reminds me of what Pixar did with Toy Story. And so that's really cool. And then you guys, no, yeah, for real. And they were the first. That was the first year the Academy, at least, did the best animated feature. They already had short.
That's right. That's
so
right.
you literally were the first.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So that that's crazy.
They pretty much invented a whole category because of how strong the animated films were that year, with your guys' movie among them. I mean, that's an incredible achievement. Yeah,
it took away. They should have had that around forever. You know, especially when you look at things like that happening in Japan and stuff like that.
They took it away.
No.
It should have
been earlier.
Forever ago.
It should have been there with the conception of the Oscars because they had animated short for a while.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Yeah, still do.
Yeah, they still they still have. They haven't gotten. They've only gotten rid of a few certain categories and just kind of blended them into other categories. So, but yeah, I mean, so what was it like working at like Nickelodeon? Really, I guess we could say.
I mean, when I worked on the film, I didn't deal too much with Nickelodeon at that time. You know, because we had our studio. We had, I want to say, close to 200 and some for the Neutron feature.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, well, for Ampley, we had a lot more. Yeah, at Ampley, we had 350, something like that.
Yeah.
The next film that we did.
That's a big team, I feel like.
Yeah, it is. And the thing that I loved about it, because I actually went there before I accepted the job, and I always loved the idea of like working for like one of these garage band companies, you know, something like that. Yeah. And it was literally, we had a giant room, and instead of walls, we had cardboard were hanging from the ceiling. And I'm like, this is fucking awesome.
Dude, that is so grudge.
And what I ended up doing, though, is like at Disney, we had these things where, you know, your big umbrellas that you have outside, those giant canvas umbrellas.
Like when you're sitting at like a table to eat?
Yeah. Well, we had them inside.
Really? That's kind
of. I don't think that the fire department really liked that, but shit.
Dude,
it looks cool.
That reminds me of like what we would do like in our college houses. Just like putting lawn furniture
huge
like inside.
Fire hazards everywhere. Yeah,
pretty much. But yeah, like
that's what it was like. I mean, it was pretty fun.
So the production on the movies, what came first? I think a lot of people were, at least in our generation, unaware of the fact that the movie. Because usually with Nickelodeon, for instance, you have the show run, like SpongeBob, for instance. Right. It was 5 years into its airtime before they got their film. I mean, you guys had the unique approach of doing the movie first. You know,
that was, and I think from because I wasn't there for that decision, but what I've heard is that Steve Odekirk, who, the Ace Ventura, you know, When Nature Calls, he wrote and directed that.
Yeah.
You know that, and he is a great friend with Jim Carrey. You know, so. He used to write for him on In Living Color, you know, so they go way back.
That's awesome.
When he saw the short film, The Runaway Rocket Boy, you know, with Johnny Quasar, not Jimmy Neutron,
right?
Yeah.
He saw that it could be something bigger. So he and John Davis got together, and they originally were going to do a series first.
Really?
And then Steve Odekirk actually said, "Nah, let's do a feature first," and helped write the film.
Right.
You know, John wrote it, and then Steve added a lot to it, and then they did the film.
Well, what's great about that, like with the film, with the feature like that, you're setting up the world, right? You're setting up the characters, and then whenever you dive into it with the show, you're able to further what you've set up, rather than the other way around, where you're kind of exploring what's already been explored, but in a feature format.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
There was some changes too, which is interesting too. Like, you know, like seeing the hairstyles change and things like that.
Like Sydney was the biggest character that changed completely from
Cindy's
the movie
hair is
to the
different
show.
hairstyle.
Yeah,
she had totally different. Her outfit too totally changed.
Yep.
And was it how big was the lapse in between the movie and the
Dude, we went right into it. I mean,
really?
I remember, I forget the year, but I remember the month, and it was in September when we wrapped up animation, and the film came out in December. Wow. So I mean, so we still the lighting team. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, you know, with animation, everything's overlapped. So it's not like as soon as you're done with the animation, okay, animation team's done, get out of here. Now lighting. There's a lot of overlap that's going on. And really at that point, I want to say there was only like 4 of us on the animation team that were doing a lot of retakes and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then I stuck around for a little bit because we had to then start doing pre-pro for the television show. And the hardest thing for us for the television show was we have this bar of quality for the feature, okay, it's up here.
Yeah.
For television, we got to do it 1,000 times faster. What's our quality level?
Right.
So it was really hard at first to figure that out.
I mean, for some people who are like unaware of like what that would be, like what are some of the biggest hurdles to come over in that?
You guys were one of the first to do it, so you guys had to discover those things.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
well, and honestly,
That's
because
true.
like when I first started on a television show, I was still a supervisor, and so I would be like, that shot looks good. I would have never approved it on the film, but
Right.
I saw it and said, go send it through. Let's see what happens because we got to get this shit done.
Right.
You know, and that's what
Really?
it was. Yeah. So like if we had, I can't remember exactly how long we had on the film to do like a shot, but in the television show, we had 2 weeks to do an entire show in animation.
2 weeks to
2
do
weeks.
from
Wow.
So that's 11 minutes. So 11 minutes in 2 weeks.
but 14,
Wow.
14 days to air as in 2 weeks.
Not
really?
to air, no,
Okay.
because here's the other
I was
thing.
like, wait a
remember-
minute, that's
no,
crazy.
No, we're not doing the
South Park
South
thing.
Park, no,
Yeah.
which is 3 days there.
Yeah.
No, for us, it was like, you know, it goes through story. First, it goes through all the script phase and all that, and then storyboards, and then layout, and then animation. And in animation, we had about 2 weeks for an 11-minute for our teams. We had 2 teams also, so we were always cranking on stuff. You know?
Yeah.
So I want to say from probably script to screen might have been 3 months. You know, maybe like
Okay.
that. Yeah,
That's still
So,
fast. I
It
feel
is
like.
fast. It
That's
is fast.
crazy.
Just out of curiosity, what is that change from storyboard to layout? What exactly is the change there?
It can be radical, you know, honestly, because, you know, our layout artists, although they're great artists, they can't draw in 3D. I mean, we're not going to do that.
Right.
And so what
Yeah.
you know, stepping ahead a little bit when I was director, I let the storyboard artists let's focus on story. Let's focus on the composition. Who cares about some of this other stuff? I do not care about the acting performance at all.
Right.
You know, because animators are going to do that.
Right. Yeah.
And so I let them focus on that. So a lot of artistic freedom happened from storyboards to layout. You
That's
know,
awesome.
So
That's
a lot
good.
of the guys that first they would like, you know, not such great animators. Oh, all right, I'll try layout and then I'll get better at animation. And then they said, you know what, screw it, I love layout.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
okay.
'cause that's cinematography.
Awesome.
You know, so
That's something that's interesting about when you guys were boarding the show. Is how it's like we're not having to make like what's the camera doing in this shot? Like is it wide? Is it in? I mean, that's,
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like that. I know that sounds crazy now with the animation we have nowadays. It's just with the whole.
That's what I
CGI
did. I
element.
mean, I got to tell you, like when I started directing, I got so into the filmmaking aspect of it. So
Yeah.
my shows, I like to think they're more filmic.
I
you know,
think no, they
because-
definitely are.
You know, so I mean, and I used a lot of that influence in saying, okay, what do I do in this shot? And I would talk to my board artists. I did a lot of thumbnails, you know, for them, even though I can't draw very well, but, you know, but I can
That's
draw
funny.
enough that with me explaining it, like if I just gave it to the board artist, like one of my board artists, Jason, he would look at it and because he's an awesome artist, he'd look at it and go, what the fuck is this? And I'd say, well, wait, it's this, and this. He goes, oh, okay, now I get it. You know, if I just gave him the drawing, he'd have no clue what
Yeah.
it was.
No, I feel like a lot of directors are that way because drawing your ideas out are the best.
You don't have to be an artist to be an animator at all.
No, 3D animator. You know,
Yeah.
2D definitely, but 3D,
Yeah.
no,
No.
not at all.
I feel like a lot of people don't realize that.
No, a lot of people don't.
I've
Like,
proven
I don't,
that.
I don't realize.
A lot of my friends assume like I'm an amazing artist,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's not. I can do some basic shapes, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that because like for me, I always figured it's like you would have to be able to draw to be good at doing that, but you know, not really.
It
I guess.
can help for sure,
Mhm.
you know, but it does not hinder if you can't.
Yeah.
For sure. So
I mean, it's crazy how many like questions that we got in from asking people and like about Neutron. I feel like the most consistent,
Yeah.
what's surprising to me because this was an event. Like was the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that is the
I was
most.
so
I mean,
excited. for that to come
crossovers
out.
as a kid. I mean, that's just.
Oh, yeah.
It was
that's just-
Avengers
Those
before
were-
Avengers.
Exactly. It's like the
Yeah.
Avengers before the Avengers.
I mean, that's
Those
what
were
it
two
was.
of my
Exactly.
favorite series at that time, and
Oh, yeah.
both of you guys coming together, I was so excited.
Dude,
and
it was
I love how
huge.
it happened in both. It happened in
We switched.
you got to see
Yeah.
how they looked in both worlds,
I just-
and that was
yeah.
just something that was so cool.
Well, for us, I mean, you know, we had already drawn our characters before, you know, so I mean, in storyboard, so we already knew what they looked like.
Yeah.
But for Butch, that was incredible for him because you know they go from 2D to 3D, and so when he got to see his models, he loved it.
Yeah.
You know, and I told you guys that I got one note from Butch Hartman. That's it. And because I co-directed with, you know, because I did the 3D, he did the 2D.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did 2 of those 3 shows. And on one of them, I had animated the wings on the ferries.
Yeah.
And he's like, the wings don't move. And I said, bullshit. Of course, I know he's not lying, but I was like, really? I had to look. And I'm like, they don't beat. They don't move.
Like on the 2D form, usually they're not flapping.
No, they're not flapping at all.
I know there was some weird
Yeah.
something I looked into because I rewatched them recently. Was I would watch like Neutron leading up until the Power Hour and Fairly Odd Parents leading up into the Power Hour. And I know, like, how did you guys handle things like torso size and like number of fingers and like how that translates? You know what I mean? Like, that's a weird problem. I feel like
I know because I mean, well, you know, even Neutron I think only has 4 fingers, I believe.
And like Butch only does like 3 or something, like on his whole hand, or like 4 total. I don't know. It's like they were different. I knew they were different.
You know, the funny thing is we didn't really have limitations. You know, it's not like Butch said, "All right, here's all the rules and all the laws and everything." Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and the same thing with us. You know, because like if they'd animate like on 3s or 4s, you know, so what that means is that every 4th frame would have a drawing.
Yeah.
And we didn't care. It's like, hey, that's your world, and so that's why he kind of left it up to us.
That's so crazy to me, especially at the time. How did, I mean, but taking it back a bit, how did this crossover event happen, and like why was it your 2 shows out of all the shows? Like, how did this thing come to be? Like, just give me this.
I don't know. I mean, some high-level Nick exec just made a great decision.
Yeah,
you
man.
know, honestly, that's one of the few that they
really?
can. But yeah, I think
so. From
they've made a lot of bad ones, but from like canceling us after 3 seasons,
dude. Hey, there is a petition. There is a petition right now. For renewing the 4th season.
There are things though where like it's kind of one of those things where even though it deserves far more to be on more than just 3 seasons, it kind of makes it more like special and in a way. You know what I mean? Just like what could have been. But what we still have is still
the
great.
Firefly effect. The Firefly.
Oh, the
effect.
1 season.
Yeah, they have the one. They have the 1 season, and it's one of the biggest followings for any show of all time. And for me, like, you know, one of my favorite cartoons from that era is SpongeBob SquarePants. But I don't remember anything past the 4th season.
Yeah.
So like that is like, and that again, nothing on the people who run it. It's just like that was like my. Golden age for SpongeBob. It's kind of like a Simpsons thing, you know. Like I loved like the first 10 years of that show, and I think a show has its. Neutron could have gone more than 3 years, but every show does have its special amount. I mean, so like, but once that Power Hour came to you, like, what was that like? Like, can you tell me about the energy and the what?
I remember because I didn't do the first one, you know. So Keith Alcorn,
original.
who was the other, you know, he did the first one. We did 3 altogether, so he did the first one. So I imagine there's probably a little bit more energy. I got to tell you, I really like meeting Tara Strong though. You know, because she's awesome.
Dude,
she is awesome.
For anyone who doesn't know, she voices Timmy Turner and many other things that I love.
A million other characters.
I love Tara Strong. Go give her a shout out on her YouTube channel. She's great.
Yeah, she is fantastic. I mean, so that was really cool. And then just meeting Butch.
Yeah.
You know, because he's got such a high energy and he's so fun. You know, and I just like being around people like that.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's more than it was. Did I look at that show any different than any other? Not really. Honestly.
As an audience member, I feel like we did, because that was just a game changer.
Of course.
Especially as a child. We're unlike most people who talk about TV, we actually were the target audience at the time.
Yeah.
Because if we were to do this now and like we didn't grow up watching it, it would be a very different kind of look back on your work.
Absolutely.
Whereas we're coming through it like, all right, we have the nostalgia lenses with it. I mean, we really do, because it was so important to our childhood, I think.
I can 100% relate, because when I was at Disney, the director that I worked with, he worked on a show that I loved. It was called The Herculoids. And so I kind of grew up on that. And when I found out he worked on that, I was like, you got to be kidding me. You worked on The Herculoids?
Yeah.
And he hated that show.
Oh, wow.
Hated it. Because, I mean, for an artist, it's a terrible show to work on, really.
Really? Why?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, just because it was, at that time period, I think it was more like, let's just get cartoons out and just churn and make money. Get them as fast as you can.
Kids will eat them up.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it's just a job for me, you know, that kind of thing. You know, so it's not like with Neutron, you know, like I told you guys, is that I loved going to work every day.
Yeah, that's
awesome. It was playing. It was not a job.
I mean, that's exactly what you would want out of a creator, and I think that's why it was so well received too, because like it was like you could tell it wasn't just your average Nickelodeon show. That there was so much effort and time put into it. The characters had genuine depth, and there was smart science to it at the same time. I mean, not like overload science, of course, but just on a very basic level.
Based on it.
It's still pretty. Yeah, it's still pretty crazy. I mean, that there was a foundation of like some sort of theory or concept you guys would explore. I mean, you were just making sci-fi every week. I mean, that must have been a lot of fun.
Well, we went through, I want to say 3. I think our final showrunner was the 3rd or 4th one, so it was difficult. You know,
really?
Making that transition, making sure that it could work like that for a television show, so it was a little hard. But the guy, Jed Spingarn, the one who ended up being there for all 3 seasons, is awesome. I mean, he's a fantastic writer, and I mean, I worked with him on 2 different shows. So and I loved working with
And which
him. That was
other
great.
show was he on?
Back at the Barnyard.
Sheen or Barnyard? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we won't talk about that other one.
Oh,
But,
okay. Dude, I think it's funny.
I like talking about that too. But the writing was so good, and it allowed us to really play too, because then once they started getting comfortable about what we did, then there was literally in the script, and literally, I'm not kidding, some of the scripts, it would say DNA go wild. So the company that I worked with is DNA, and so they're just like,
That must be the coolest thing to see on a script.
That had to be
man.
awesome.
as a director, yes, it is.
Like just go nuts. And you guys definitely did.
Yeah.
Again, we reached out to some people because we are the Neutron generation. It's like, hey, do you guys have anything at all you want us to ask? Just like because again, like we were watching YouTube theories and just like what are people our age wondering about the show? And what, like I had some funny responses like, why the hell is Carl scared of lima beams? like why is that his fear? And like why did you have to make it so fucking horrifying when you animated it?
I know the reason.
Only episode I was scared of, by the way.
Really?
Dude, that scared the shit out of me as a kid. It really did. The thing was horrifying, dude.
You know why he is?
Why?
Because it's funny.
Oh, hey.
And that's the thing. I mean, like in all my board sessions,
I love
that was the rule. There was only one rule. If it's funny, it's in.
Right.
That was it.
So like a lot of those outlandish decisions, they just kind of came about in the writer's room or when you were
Both.
animating?
Yeah, both. From all over the place. I mean, because I like the way that I like working with artists too is that I'll give them basically a framework to work within.
Yeah.
Because I think the worst thing that you can give to any artist in anything is a blank piece of paper.
Right.
Because you would think creatively, I can do whatever I want. No.
Yeah.
It's just like
Think
writer's
about that.
block, right?
Exactly.
I've never
You
actually
don't know
thought
which
about it that
direction
way.
to go.
It's like starting a paper, I guess.
It
Like,
is.
that's how as a writer,
Just
that's how
write
I'm
a
relating to
paper.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But if you got to write a paper about a guy that's stuck in an office that he's been there for 30 years and doesn't know how to get out, and he's got a food, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now you can start writing.
Holy shit, that's a good pitch.
Except for the blah, blah part. Yeah.
No, like, where are we going with that? I kind of like the...
I know. I kind of like where I was going to. I was like, what?
There's some real
actually.
tones on the American workforce in the script you just pitched. Yeah, I like that. But yeah, dude, that we got so many. I mean, someone was like, "Why does the teacher like? Why does she Why does she
That
do
was
that?"
Andrea. That was on the actor.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
really?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
improvised.
Is
Oh.
that just the
Oh my
vision she saw
God,
for
yeah.
the teacher?
I don't know. I mean, because the thing is, it's the same thing. Letting artists kind of play.
Right. Yeah.
Are you shitting me? Every time I hear the word Carl, I dated a girl once. And she had she was good friends with someone named Carl. And every time it came up, I was always like Carl, like every time.
Think about it. What's her last name?
The teacher in the show,
Yeah.
I forget. I don't
It's
remember.
Miss Fowl.
Oh
Foul.
my gosh.
Like a bird. So Andrea
Yeah.
put that in there. I mean, I want to say that's probably the original direction from John
Yeah.
for the film is like, she's kind of bird-like because we even had her go,
Her
Yeah,
nose
she-
is
like
a
so
chicken.
pointy.
Yeah.
She looks like a bird.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
There's
there
even
you
an
go.
episode where she like hatches an egg or something.
I think there is. Yeah, it's
I
not
remember
mine.
that.
It's not mine.
Yeah.
I remember that.
You guys are just like, fuck it, we might as well commit.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go full bore.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I can't remember them all. I wrote a lot of them down, but like because there was some interesting ones. Like, was Jimmy Neutron actually a genius? Did he actually have special needs? Was it all in his head? Was it a dream? Like I'm like,
Was
that's
it all in his head?
Well,
What?
the Pizza Cat was definitely a dream.
Mm.
If you remember that one, it was the Nightmare in Retroville, I believe.
Oh, was it like
the
a Halloween
pizza.
episode or something?
No,
I'll remember
it's
it if
the
you
pizza.
describe the episode.
Okay, it was the one where he had a sleepover with is one of my shows. It's 11-minute. He had a sleepover with the other kids,
Yeah.
and they did something about pizza, and this pizza all of a sudden was attacking them.
Oh, I do remember. What were
There's
you gonna
like,
say?
no,
You
there's
remember
just
that?
a
You should
line.
remember
No,
that.
I love that one because there's just like a line when the boys come to the house and Hugh answers the door and he sees the sleeping bag and the toothbrush and he goes, "Oh my God, they're moving in. We got to pay for college." He goes on this huge rant and the wife is just like, they're literally sleeping over.
Dude,
Like,
I think that's a good time to talk about Hugh Neutron because,
like,
like, for me,
so iconic.
and it's interesting because I rewatched the movie recently, and he's kind of straight laced in the movie. He's a lot more
Yeah, he
authoritative.
is
Like
a
he's
lot
actually
more,
a
yeah.
decent dad.
Yeah.
You know.
Until the last scene.
Yeah, but like he's like you know, like not even grounding him is a start.
Yeah,
Like not even
yeah.
letting him go to Ultra World, I guess it's called. What's it called? The theme park.
Yeah.
You know, and like that,
Well,
and then
no, Retroland.
Retroland.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ultra Lord is what I was thinking of,
Yeah,
which is Sheen's
Sheen.
obsession.
Yeah.
But then you watch the show, And I'm guessing, is that what the voice actor brought to that?
Same guy.
Yeah.
So it was Mark DiCarlo who. It's funny because now talking about like when I grew up, he was on a show called Studs. And so this show was like a dating show, and
Wait,
he was the host.
No.
Wait, seriously?
Yes.
It was one of those old dating shows.
Oh, it's awful. It's
Wait a
awful.
minute.
But Mark
Goodness.
was awesome in it. Yeah.
Like that board game, like where you have like what's it called, man? Like the one where it like hitches you together with like all these like these muscular men or something.
Kind of.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of.
That's
Yeah.
so
Like
funny.
that. Yeah. And so when I first saw him, I'm like, you were on Studs. He's like,
Oh God, I wish you never found that out.
Yeah. Well, dude, you can find out anything. I mean, it's just the direction that you guys took that. He was my favorite. Him or Carl were probably my favorite characters from the show, and like, or Bulby. But like, I really love. Like, we were talking last time when we all were hanging out together like a week or two ago.
yeah.
And like our favorite Hugh line is, "Son, let me tell you, one day I sat on a banana and that changed my life." Like, what?
No, he was in the 7th grade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like
when
that.
I was in the 7th grade, I sat on a banana.
And that's the
and
day
that
my,
changed
How the
my
f-
life
it
changed.
changed my life.
How did that make it through? How did that make it in, dude?
Yeah, I honestly don't know because my favorite line that did not make it in was by I can't remember his name. It was one of the writers that he said that Father Mike took me behind the rectory and taught me how to pitch and catch.
No.
I'm like, holy.
Oh
You say
my
Father
God.
Mike?
Yes, took me behind the rectory to teach me how to pitch and catch.
That's even balls just
Uh-huh.
to pitch the line.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. When he wrote it, I remember talking to him. I said, dude, there's no way that's going to make it.
Right.
And he goes, I know. He goes, but there's 2 other lines that are pretty
Oh,
good.
got you looking at this hand.
Exactly.
If you're not
yeah.
looking at this hand.
Exactly.
It's actually a good tech. How often? How often do you guys try to throw things in
Yeah,
there?
that's actually a question
me,
I got from
every
a fan.
single show.
Because
every single
there's a
show.
lot of stuff that caters to adult viewers, and the titles.
Yeah.
For instance, the Egg Spire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote down some of the titles I love. Where are they? I
I did both of those. Yeah.
Oh, really? Some of the titles you guys had were pretty nuts. I mean, like the. I can't think of them right now. I'm blanking. Name some titles from your show that were
God,
like.
you think I remember?
I don't know. No, like let me find it.
I mean, let's see. Jimmy Goes to College. Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Well, no, there was. I thought I wrote it
Stranded.
down. Like you guys did like a Macbeth reference in one of them. I thought that was awesome.
Oh yeah, Out
too.
Darn Spotlight.
Yeah,
that
which
was
is like,
fun, yeah.
which is a crazy reference because if you've read Macbeth, that's when the character's like trying to get the blood out of her hands. That
Exactly.
she's hallucinating.
Yeah,
That's not
exactly.
actually
Is
there.
that the same episode
That's Boldy.
where Lord of the Rings is also kind of parodied?
I don't remember if we did it on that one. That was the Bolby Stroganowski one.
Yeah.
Oh, I found it. Yeah, I Dream of Jimmy.
Yeah.
Journey to the Center of Carl.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Egg Spire Strikes Back.
Fire,
Those are
yeah.
so there's just a lot of shit in there that like if you're older and like for me
Oh,
now
absolutely.
I get like how you said every day you guys were just trying to see what you can get away with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it came to like storyboards, especially,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and like I said, the rule was if it's funny, it's in. And also, I had another rule though: if it makes it different, it doesn't go in.
What do you mean
If
by
it
that?
makes it better, because sometimes if you're going to try to add a note to a show or something like that,
Yeah.
sometimes, hey, instead of a red jersey, what if it were green? Fuck that. It doesn't
Right.
make it any.
Yeah.
It doesn't make
Right.
it better. Now, if it's because there's a joke about something green, okay, that's in there. But if not, no, we're going to make it better, not different.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
How often did that kind of thing happen? Or just
sometimes, just people just, and this is just human nature, hey, I've got a great idea and I've got to have it in the show. It's like, no, it's not that great
Yeah.
first.
There is
Yeah.
one advantage you have to having a show tailored towards kids where the kids don't they rule what they watch, right? The
Yeah.
parents let the kids watch what they want to watch, no matter
Yeah.
how much they like or dislike whatever it is. Kids always decide what they get to watch,
Right,
so you didn't
right.
really have to worry too much necessarily. I mean, obviously you want to put as best as you can, but at the same time,
But the thing is, what I hear from a lot of parents is
Uh-huh.
that this is the one show that I could watch with my kids.
yeah, that's
You know,
awesome.
and I take the kind of a compliment to that. Because
Absolutely.
I would for
first,
sure.
the
yeah.
writers for sure, but a lot of the things that we did because it was funny to us.
Right?
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I had someone message me earlier. It was someone I know, one of my friend's moms, and she said that was my favorite kids show to sit down
Yeah.
and watch. Like it was her favorite. I mean, they
Yeah.
watched. And I personally know they watched everything.
I hear
she
that
had,
a lot,
She had
yeah.
3 daughters, and they were dabbling in Disney, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon. They and she was a scientist herself. I think she was a chemist or a biologist, and that definitely probably added
That
to
added
it.
to it for sure.
But dude, aside from that, it's just such a zany show. I mean, like I could think of the times I've joked around with like the other day I was hanging out with one of my friends and he started humming the song Carl fell asleep to. The 99.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like when and it's just some things stick, man.
Rubbing his belly.
Yeah.
While he does it. Yeah.
Some things just. I mean, you were telling me you guys just didn't. It's kind of like every time you hear it, it's still kind of crazy to hear that, like how it does stick and impact culture.
Yeah, because the thing is, like when you're working on it, it doesn't feel like that. Because like I didn't realize, and still it's still weird to me that millions of people have seen the show and stuff and like the show. When we worked on it, the only thing that I got like instant feedback was what our ratings were. And even there, it was like, okay, if it's a 10, I don't still know exactly what that means.
It's a viewership thing, right?
10's good for what we were doing.
That's really good.
Yeah. So that was really the only thing when we were working on it. And it's cool now, to be in college and seeing like a lot of you that have grown up with it and I get to hear this kind of stuff. I tell everybody that worked on the show because they don't hear that.
Really?
Really?
Do you still stay in touch with a lot of the cast and crew?
A lot. The cast... not as much since I'm not in LA as much. I've been trying to get Rob Paulsen to come here really bad because he would.
That would be so funny.
Because he is
for
just
people who don't know,
amazing.
fill us in on Rob Paulsen.
So Rob Paulsen is probably one of the best voice actors in Hollywood, I think. He did Carl, and he was he was Pinky from Pinky and the Brain.
Goofy movie.
He was. He's done so much. He's one of the Animaniacs. He's one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
Isn't he Michelangelo?
I can't remember which one.
That was my favorite one.
I know. Wait, no, he might not be the one. He's one of them. He's definitely one of them.
One of the 7 or whatever that have done all the voices.
Yeah.
But he's great. But I mean, I do talk to a lot of animators still because when DNA broke up as a band of 300 of us, when we broke up, they went everywhere. Pixar, Blue Sky, Disney, all the places like that. And, so a lot of my friends have worked on Academy Award-winning films, multiple Academy Award-winning films, but still, they will still say DNA and Neutron was one of the best times.
I guess it's because of that vibe you guys had.
It was a big family.
Yeah.
And I mean, I tell my story, like for my classes, I give like a history of myself in about, I hope it's 5 minutes. It might seem like 50 to everybody else.
I think it's like our first class is dedicated to
don't
the
say
history
that.
No, it's amazing.
That's a
It's
good
like
thing,
so-
though. Your portfolio is pretty crazy.
But-
That's what we want you to do on here, in a way. Just
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
going, because that's all I want to talk about is your portfolio.
You talked about that thing that you worked on, the little alien dude.
The little alien dude.
He had like the big circle, it sucked things up.
Oh, that's what I saw. Yeah, the
Yeah.
film that I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a film. What my inspiration was really, it was called Gas Planet, and it was something by the company that did it was eventually became DreamWorks. So,
Wait, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
yeah. So Gas Planet by Pacific Data Images, and I want to say it's like 92, 93, something like that. The whole story is that I was here at UC, and I was in architecture, so I was there for about 4.5 years out of a 6-year program, and which parents love to hear that. Oh, really? 4.5 years, and then you changed your mind? Good timing, Mike.
The architecture thing.
Yeah. My mom literally chased me around the yard. What are you talking about?
Wow.
Oh yeah, she did.
Little
Yeah.
did she know.
I know she's happy now, but yeah,
you were
but
telling
back
us.
then,
You were telling us a story though. Like, have you heard some people from you guys came up together and they were like, I wish I would have went into that. Like, I wish I would have ended up going into it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of us are faced with that now. I mean, you can redo your life, I believe, like a few times over.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
really do believe you can do
Oh.
that. But when you're in your 20s, there's like an extra pressure to make sure like, all right, what's your path going to be shaped at? So like, like for me, like a personal example, I wasn't even into film until recently. And I'm like, I'm so glad I made this switch. It was always so intimidating to get into the arts, instead of going with some. And I love my other major, unlike you, because I know you were pretty good at architect, right? You said you just got bored with it. You'd rather do animation.
It wasn't exact because like since I was co-oping, so I went and I saw what an architect really did.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, and I remember on one of my co-ops, they said, hey, we want you to design the guard tower or the guard station, that goes into this old people's home, whatever, I can't remember. And so I did something off of the design, nothing big. It's just a little guard, shack. And they're like, no, we want a box. I was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, no, I'm out.
I know.
Yeah.
I hear that story all the time. Like, I was like, an example, Dan Avedon from Game Grumps. He was talking about going into advertising. It's a YouTube channel. And he was saying like he didn't really get to be creative because when you're going to school for it, it's like, oh, we're all creative and passionate. We're coming up with our projects. But it's funny like how you don't get told about the reality of the day to day.
Yeah.
I mean, like we all probably have stories where you think you're passionate about something, but you're passionate about the field of work, the history of the work, the skill set, but not the intricacies of the job
right.
of being told what to do. I mean, that must have just been a big kick to the face.
It was because I was like, there's no way I want to get excited to get up to go draw a box,
especially as an architect.
Toilet. Yeah. So I was like, nah, that's not gonna be it. I do want to talk about a point though, is that what I think for, like what I had to go through, do not be in a hurry to figure out what the hell you're going to do the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Not because it might hit you at 13. It might. But I seriously, I thought I was going to be an architect at like 12 or 11, something like that because of Legos. I love Legos.
You still love Legos?
That's what did it
I haven't
for you?
played with them in a while, but I had an entire city, and I mean skyscrapers, that were almost the size of me in my basement. Oh yeah, I had a ton. I think my parents might still have a couple boxes of them.
That's fantastic.
But I thought for a long time, and even in high school, I took architecture classes. We had architecture classes in high school.
Man.
And then when I came here, UC is still one of the best in the nation for architecture, but it was like number 2 at the time.
For sure.
Wow.
And I was like, hell yeah, and then I went out in the field and said, hell no.
Yeah. And like so when that happened.
Yeah.
How
did I feel? Scared to death.
Yeah, I mean, but like, what was your next step? I guess, like, how did what about LA was appealing? What got you into it?
Well, my next step was, obviously, if I'm an architecture, I'm going to go into business.
Right.
No, it's not obvious at all. I mean, I was like, what? So I started taking business classes just because I didn't know what the hell I was going to do.
A lot of people do that, I think. It's like,
I
I'm a
think
comm
so.
major now. I'm a business major now.
After my first week of business classes, I could tell it just wasn't for me.
Me neither.
Right.
I'm so glad that other people love doing that.
Me
Right.
too,
Yeah.
dude.
Awesome.
We need that.
We need those people in this world for sure.
Yeah.
It's just
But not
our
for
route.
me. I just couldn't. It's like trying to explain storytelling to my dad. He just I don't get it. I'm like, how can you not understand turning in the midway of Act 2? I don't understand that. Yes, that's so funny.
I relate to that so much. like so much.
Yeah. So and unfortunately, I've tortured my children because now they're 18 and 20. And I remember, I think when Summer, she's my oldest one, she's like 13.
Yeah.
We're watching a movie and she leaned over to me and goes, "End of Act 1." I'm like, I've ruined films for my kids.
And she was 13 doing that.
Yeah.
That's actually amazing.
Oh my God.
That's actually incredible. If she can analyze
I'm
act
going to
structure.
tell one story just in case she happens to listen to this. But there was one time she might have been, 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And because we did Neutron about that long ago. But she was in our edit suite. And it was such the cutest little thing. And it was just me and my editor and Summer. And so she's this precocious little 10 or 11-year-old, whatever. And I was like, Summer, where do you think we should cut? And she literally was watching the two, and she would go, and cut, and point with her finger. And I was like, that's pretty good.
That's a talent.
Let's cut there.
And she led up to it with the. Is she going to get into that kind of stuff?
She's in game design here at UC.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's in their sophomore
I want
year
to say,
now.
holy shit, to be able to know when to stop is.
Yeah, I know. But it was just so funny how she raised her hand and went and cut. And
Did you guys
put
get
her
that
hand
on
down.
video or anything?
I
That's hilarious.
wish. I do have a picture of her in the edit or the record suite with Jimmy Neutron with Debbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy how I mean, this is a sidebar, I guess, but it's something I really want to talk about. Whether it's Debbie or Tara or anybody, like women voice actors playing male characters. Because and like how do you think Nickelodeon was shy on throwing the fact that it was Debbie out there? Because I heard rumors that they were trying to not necessarily because they're sexist, and that certainly is a sexist thing to do, but because they were worried about the reception on how people would take Neutron, knowing a female voice actor was behind it. Even though Nancy Cartwright had been doing it since the
forever.
80s, and E.G. Wright, and like people you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been incredible working with.
It's crazy how they're all friends too.
Are they really?
Yeah,
Are they really?
E.G. and Debbie hang out all the time. Yeah,
That's crazy.
I think so. I think that was part of it. I mean, it sucks that it is like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not so much now.
No,
but it
Definitely.
was.
Especially the animated field, I think, is rather progressive about things like that.
Yeah.
But when it first came out, because I remember saying, Jimmy's actually a girl. Every reaction would be like, what? And now it's like, oh, okay.
And what's funny though is I think that holy shit, for me, if you were to tell me right now, and it was the first time I heard that, because it would be the same reaction as the first time I heard that.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, really? Because I'm impressed, not because I'm like, oh my god, how dare they have a girl casting? It's just because I'm whether it's Tara or whether it's EG or whether it's Cartwright when she was voice acting, it's crazy the range they have to be able to do that. Like, it really does shock me. So I mean, you guys had a pretty crazy cast,
Well, and Carolyn also, she was Cindy, and she was also on SpongeBob the Squirrel. So,
Sandy
Cheeks.
She's Sandy, yeah.
Sandy Cheeks.
Cindy and Sandy.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Now, I remember when I went out to LA a couple of times, I was basically living out there, even when we were working on the show in Dallas. And we all went out to eat with all the voice actors. And I was hanging out with Carolyn, and these two little kids came up, and they said something about, I can't remember what they said, something about SpongeBob. And I said, well, she's Sandy Cheeks. And they're like, nuh-uh.
Dude,
and then she started talking.
I'm giddy right now.
It was so cool seeing these little kids go,
That's
like
Sandy
that. And I
Cheeks.
said, she's also Cindy Neutron. They're like, nuh-uh. And she did it. It was so cool. It was one of the coolest things.
awesome.
I'm like,
I
man, that'd be so cool to do that.
I envy that so much. I envy that ability so
to
much.
be able to do that.
A similar story happened with your daughter and the voice actor of SpongeBob, right? At the
We were at the Kids' Choice Awards, and I just had done a shoot with Miranda Cosgrove, and from iCarly, and so
Right.
we were back in like the VIP of the Kids' Choice Awards, whatever. And so I can't remember how old Reese was, maybe 12 or 14. I can't remember.
Yeah.
No, much younger than that because she's 18 now. But I was like, hey, there's Miranda Cosgrove. I can go introduce you to her. And she was so shy.
Right.
And it was like the entire cast of iCarly. And I'm like, I'm guarantee she'll introduce you. It's like, no, I don't want to. And then Tom Kenny came next to me and he said, hey, how you doing? And he started talking. And then I turned to Reese. I said, you know who he is? And she goes, no. And then he started talking as SpongeBob. And it was the coolest thing. And she went,
That is just such a magical
Yeah.
moment. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like something that would happen in my dreams as an 8-year-old.
An 8-year-old. If that happened to me now, I would.
freak out.
Well,
I would
of
freak
course,
out.
right.
I would
now.
koala hug him, dude. I wouldn't know what to do. Like,
Sobbing
you guys,
on the ground.
because like growing up, that was one of those things. And these guys I'm just a SpongeBob fanatic.
Oh, really?
Like fanatic. I have dude. It's embarrassing. You would wonder how I ever talked to a girl given what's in my bedroom. Just SpongeBob everywhere. So like,
and movie posters too, right?
yeah. Well, what in the
Movie posters also?
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. See, Mike knows me well already that I have an obsession of movie posters. I have an obsession with a lot of things, man. But yeah, man, if I met Tom Kenny, I would freak out. I mean, in terms of your talented voice acting cast, though, like when you guys would record, was it in direct specifically? Did you guys have them together so they could feed off each other's energy? I mean, like, talk to me about some of that.
Yeah, as much as we could.
Really?
I mean, because the record booth is actually not much bigger than this.
Really?
This room. We had 2 ISO booths. Now they've gotten bigger because they moved.
Sadly.
Yeah,
'Cause
I know. I really like there was even a mini golf course at
the
the
orange,
place.
the one with the
Yeah.
big orange logo is
the big
best.
splat. Yeah. But we had 2 ISO booths. So normally it was Jimmy, Debbie, and Jeff Garcia, who's Sheen, just because he yells.
Wait, really?
Oh my God! Yeah, I love Jeff. He's a stand-up comic. I love him.
Didn't he win an award? Sorry to interrupt you. Didn't
I
he win?
think
I think he won a
Annie.
voice acting
Yeah,
award.
I think he won an Annie. Yeah.
Yeah, for
yeah.
Sheen. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "Why the hell are you picking me?" He was the easiest to direct too because he's like, "Fuck it, just read the line. I don't care." And so of course I would go, "Well, he'd have to do it." And he goes, "No, you don't have to do the Sheen voice
Yeah.
because I got the voice part. Just
Right.
tell me how to say it." But then we would have as many times as we could. We would have the rest of the cast together. Now, sometimes we record mom and dad separate because normally they're in a different scene.
Mom and
So,
okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
Megan Cavanaugh and Mark DiCarlo, we'd usually do them separate.
Well, how long would these voice actors or voiceover sessions be? Usually?
You know what? They were booked for 4 hours, but I think maybe we would take 2.
That's longer than most people probably think.
Oh man, and
for
you
an
get
11.
paid so much for just working, for talking.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so good. I mean, I know it's a lot harder than that for
No,
but,
yeah, it's
But
real.
Rob would
It's-
say that.
it
Rob
is-
would go, man. He would come in and say he would only have 8 lines,
Yeah.
but he'd hang out the whole time. Rob
Yeah.
is awesome. He'd get there early. He'd leave late. He is a pro.
Yeah.
And it was just so fun just being around there. So.
That's crazy. You guys could have them record though, all in the same session like that. I mean, was it ever difficult to direct an ensemble like that? I mean, surely it was,
well,
right?
here's the thing. With something like that, it wasn't just me there, though. We had a voice director
Okay.
who was also in there who really knew how to work with voice talent, too.
Yeah.
We also had the showrunner, who the showrunner is basically the head writer. And on a television show, they're the ones in charge. On feature film, the director is king. For a television show, the director is king of their own show, but you still get notes from the showrunner because they have to make sure that every single show it looks like it's from the same director.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my boss, really. So he was in there, and I was really there as I would direct them, but I would kind of step back a little bit, and I'd always think about performance. I'd say, okay, how am I going to put this together? And if I didn't get it, then I would give a note. Like the Tim Allen story.
Do you want to elaborate on that? So there was
goodness.
They did what he's talking about is they did. I'm sure people remember this. They did a Jimmy Neutron special. What was the name? Something Kaboom.
Win, lose, or
Kaboom. Yeah. Where basically it was kind of like a similar, like a Rick and Morty episode did it, where it's like all these planets participate in this.
Yeah.
In a way, like a talent show, and one of them is going to get blown up if they lose. And Tim Allen was a guest star on the episode.
He was the game show host, basically. Yeah.
And working with him was just kind of just not as fun as you would have hoped.
I don't want to say it wasn't fun, but the thing is, my last name's Gasaway. So I've had plenty of people make fun of my name. But the thing is, when I've heard every fart joke known to man. Yeah, right. So, and I think I did tell you this, that I got to direct Mel Brooks.
Yeah,
and he to me is like one of the oh my God, Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
When he found out my last name, he started throwing out fart jokes that I've already heard, but I'm like, I don't care. It's Mel Brooks. I do not care.
Yeah.
But with this, I didn't give a lot of notes for that, even though that was my show. It was an hour and a half show.
Right?
It was like a feature film. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so there were some things that I'm just like, oh, man, it's just not quite there. And so I was like, hey, Tim, can you blah, 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 blah. I can't remember what it was. And then he was like, all right. And he did it. And he's like, is Gasaway okay with that? After every take.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, dude. And so I almost said, if you got it right the first time, we wouldn't have to do it again.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, stand-up comic will kill me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll let it go. I'll eat it. I'm fine.
I mean, directing like actual talent must have been. Did you find it a lot more challenging to bring people who weren't regular? Because I know the actress behind Beautiful Gorgeous. He said she just nailed it, right?
Yeah, Wendy Malick. She was awesome. And it was one of those things where because the thing is, when you're directing anyone, you have something in your head of what it is, and they'll normally bring a little bit of something to it. And then you say, oh, you know what? How about that's fantastic. How about you do it this way? When Wendy came in, it was like, holy shit, I don't know how to make that better.
She nailed it.
She nailed it. And we'd have all four of us that were here, including an engineer, and we'd all look at each other like, I don't know what to add.
Just for good measure. Like,
we were like shocked.
Yeah.
Not to say that the other talent, the other voice talent were bad, because they were awesome.
No.
She just came in and just nailed the role. We talked to her for probably about a half an hour about what the role was. That's all we needed.
Yeah.
And she killed it.
I mean, what was it like working with Tim Curry, who is one of my...
Wow, you work with Tim Curry.
Smashing. So Tim Curry, for me, for anyone who doesn't know, is one of he's one of the most recognizable voices ever. Nigel Thornberry and Professor Calamitous from Neutron. I am obsessed with. I'm always saying smashing to my friends. What was it like working with him, man?
He was really cool. He was so down to earth and so nice, because he would just turn it on too. He was one of these guys that would be like, "Oh yeah, so really," and talking in his awesome British accent.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just go. And it's like, how the hell you do that? He just turned it on.
I love that.
And he would always hang out too, because that's what I liked about. I really didn't have Tim Allen. That's not necessarily a bad experience.
Yeah.
I never had anything awful with anybody.
Really? I guess what I meant was just challenging. Because you said someone came in once and she was just such a pro. Like, it was almost like, how do I...
Wendy.
No, like, was it Julie or who came in once and you said, she's like, I think we got it.
Oh, I wasn't... That was a different show. So that was for the Ampoli.
Okay.
So I heard that story, so I wasn't there for that.
And you were like, oh man, I don't know what
I don't know what I would have done in that situation.
Yeah.
What it was, just I don't know if we can say her name, whatever, but...
Yeah, we don't have to.
But she would read it and do it twice and then go, no, I think we got it.
Yeah.
She's very well known.
Oh,
so it's like,
Julia Roberts. Yeah.
Well, you said it.
Yeah.
Logan does not care.
Say it.
Well, I mean, no one...
We can edit that out,
we can
right?
edit it. Yeah, we can. We can.
Sorry, I didn't realize we're supposed to keep that confidential.
No, yeah, we can.
I don't think it's a big deal, because, but...
It's a compliment in a way.
Yeah.
Just because, like, again, what's crazy to a lot of people is, like, what voice acting... is like, it's a lot harder than most people think, because a lot of people who are even professional actors, they get put in a booth. I'm like, okay, like, now it's even easier. I don't have to be on my mark, and it's like, what am I doing with my face, and how are they blocking me with it? I can't look at the camera. It's like, I'm just going to talk, but it's not that, because there's so much that goes into how the audio sound. You can recognize bad voice acting, maybe bad voice direction in a minute. Sometimes it's harder to recognize great voice direction because it's seamless. It's like editing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And sometimes they forget about the performance part of it, and so they'll read a line like da 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 da.
Like you're reading a book,
You know,
yeah.
Exactly. Because that's what they're kind of doing. They're reading the script instead of, you can still memorize it and do it, whatever. And so some can do that, and that's where we have to come in.
Did you ever feed people lines as they read?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But the thing is, I make sure that they're okay with it. Like I said with Jeff Garcia, he was like, dude, I don't care. Read the line. I really don't care.
Oh, okay, that's what you meant by that.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, yeah, and like it's just crazy thinking about your cast. Like even just for Goddard having Welker come on.
Oh my God.
You guys know who Frank Welker is, right? He's Scooby Doo.
Yeah, and
So
watching him too, I don't know how he does it with his face. He's got the loosest face in the planet.
Really?
He's
like
he'll just go,
Scooby.
He's a dog.
It's
Yeah.
insane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's insane.
He does a lot of animal sound effects, though.
He did all of our animal
He's like a
sounds.
go-to
Yeah.
guy for animal sound effects.
Still is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Yeah.
still doing Scooby, I think, in
Is he
many.
really still?
I'm pretty sure he's the Scooby Doo movie that's coming out this May.
Are you serious?
He's in it in some
Yeah.
This
capacity.
is news to me. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, but like, what was it? I don't know. Like, what was it like being out there in that element? Like, like whether it's Hollywood life or working for a big company like Nickelodeon. Like, do you guys feel like you had like a creative freedom at all, or?
I never got swept up in all that kind of stuff. Maybe because first of all, with Neutron, we were in Dallas for that. Now,
Yeah.
For
I always
Back
thought
at
you
the
guys were in
Barnyard,
LA. Yeah.
we flew out there for every record and every pitch.
Mm.
So like how it would basically go though is that once a script was written and approved, then we would record it, and then we would do the storyboards for
Yeah.
it, and then we would pitch the storyboards to the execs and the supervising producer. And so
Yeah.
I'd always go out to there because it's so different, because we tried it over the phone, flip a page, and now we're doing this, flip the next page. It just wasn't the same. Because
Yeah.
I like to get animated, or literally,
Yeah.
to say, because I go at a different pace when I'm pitching it. I'll slow down at different moments and stuff like that. So I like being out there. But even when I lived out there prior to Neutron, I never got caught up in it and all that. I didn't really care.
Out
in Los Angeles, yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it out there.
Yeah. How can you not? I mean,
Yeah.
some people don't like for me, like I love Southern California in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I love like Encinitas and Carlsbad and all.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, that's what we were talking about. Well,
yeah.
that's where I'm moving.
Really?
In about 10 years.
That's
moving back
awesome.
there. Yeah.
my brother's out there right now,
Oh,
and
man.
my family has lived there, so
Ugh.
big fan of the Carlsbad area for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
I'm still ignorant of California and all it holds to offer.
Yeah, I mean, so
Just
you,
go out and check it out.
so you
man.
do
You
miss
might not
it.
come back.
Like,
Oh my god.
it didn't swallow, because a lot of people get swallowed up by LA.
No,
It's
I mean
literally swallowed up by
I
it.
know, but I mean, when I was out there for Back at the Barnyard and Planet Sheen, I didn't want to come back. I mean, it wasn't my choice to come back, but I mean, it was. I missed it. I mean, and even I had an agent that was in LA, and so I lived in Carlsbad, and it was 2-hour drive. I got that little HOV sticker though in my car, so
Hell yeah,
I
you
had
do.
a Prius before it was cool or uncool to have a Prius, I guess now.
No, people,
yeah.
carbon footprint, man.
Yeah, exactly.
People are aware.
Yeah, so I would go in the HOV lane and fly up to LA.
Well, what a great
so-
drive though, man.
Yeah, part of it. My
Well-
best commute though was from Carlsbad to when I worked on Back at the Barnyard. Was I took the train, and it goes right along the coast.
Yeah, it's right next to the
Oh
PCH. I
my
used to ride my
dude, yeah, it's
bicycle on
awesome.
that. You know how they have the bike path
Yeah,
there
yeah,
from
yeah,
like
yeah.
Dana Point all the way up to like, I don't know, it was
There's
past
a
Laguna.
plenty of restaurants at Dana Point.
Oh yeah, yeah, dude, I love it over there. Like, I love it. I was just there back in August.
Oh really? Oh,
Yeah,
man.
it's still great. It's still fantastic. I mean, like the process of getting you back out. I mean, a lot of people who don't know, like, you are from Ohio.
yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, how did you make this happen? Like,
Oh yeah.
you know, so like when you left LA, did you come straight to Ohio after, or was that how that worked?
No, I was in San Diego. So I mean, the whole trip was
Hell
like
yeah.
It was Cincinnati, Minneapolis for finish school, and then I moved to Los Angeles to work at Disney, and then Neutron was in Dallas, and then I moved back to San Diego to work on 2 other Nickelodeon projects. So Back at the Barnyard and Planet Sheen, and then my wife at the time was from here, from Ohio. Also, we actually met at UC.
Oh, okay.
And so she said, let's move back to Ohio and we can, work on family and all that kind of stuff. And I said, sure, why do that? Okay. And didn't realize she had a boyfriend back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
gosh.
Yeah.
Holy
As
shit.
soon as I crossed the border, I felt like too. It's like, oh yeah, we got a house in Dayton. Now guess what? You're not living there. It's like, what? You know, I can say this because we get along great now. I hope, Heather, if you're listening.
Yeah, like I said, we can edit.
Yeah.
We can edit things out.
It's very cathartic for me to finally get it out. It's only been 10 years.
He just unloads it all on the show. Oh my god. Yeah.
Wow, what a surprise though.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
You know, and the not funny thing, but right before that happened, we were driving out, of course, from from San Diego to Dayton, Ohio. That we were in Colorado, right outside of Vail, and it's pouring down snow.
Yeah.
And she's in the Prius, and I'm in a 4Runner. You thought that would be better in the snow. We had what they called Los Angeles tires on it, which was zero tread. Yeah, because you don't need it. Yeah, exactly. You don't need it because it never rains, all that kind of stuff.
And then when it does, people can't drive.
And that's part of the reason,
Yeah.
So we got in a car accident, me and my youngest, and totaled the car.
Wow.
And so we had to, then my ex ended up flying back to Dayton, and it was me and 2 little kids and 2 cats and all of our shit in a Prius.
Oh my God.
Driving from Denver, Colorado back to Dayton.
There's another script.
Wow.
I know.
At least Colorado is a scenic drive.
Yeah, well, we already went through the scenic part.
That's the problem.
The other side.
That's the problem. When
the flat part of
when
Colorado.
you're making that drive, like from let's say from California to Ohio, it's only good from like Cali through like maybe like not even to Colorado. Like almost like once you're done with the desert, it kind of sucks. It's just flat land all the way back.
Yep.
Another 12, 15 hours of that.
Yeah, of just me because the kids were too young to drive.
And it's all just a reminder of where you're heading back to.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know it was divorce at that time. So I'm like, well, at least start our family.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
And like so then you came back to Ohio and like how the hell did you get connected with UC? I guess as an alumni reached out or.
Yeah. Because the funny thing is I'm actually in the UC Hall of Fame, believe it or not. Yeah. How weird is that? I don't know what that means.
I didn't know
there
we
was
had
no
a Hall
ceremony. I don't see my bust anywhere.
Where's your plaque, man?
I know. I don't even.
It doesn't exist. There's no Hall of Fame, is there?
No, there is. But
I'm
saying there's a location.
Someone lied to you. Just to get on.
I've been duped.
Just to get on good. Like someone was taking your class and was like, you know what, man? Pretty sure I got you in the Hall of Fame. And you're just like, no shit.
I'm out of here now.
You just never asked to see it.
Classes are canceled if you're listening.
I've peaked.
So like when you came back though, how did you get involved with the University of Cincinnati?
Yeah, so I was in Columbus. I was lucky because my parents live in Columbus. So it's really fun when you're 40 and living with your parents. It's awesome.
Oh yeah?
No, it's not. No, imagine it. No, God, no, it sucked. I love my parents, but yeah, I didn't want to live with them. I bought 3 houses before that, and I was like,
you got to do what you got to do, man.
You do.
I bet it was a humbling experience.
Humbling. I don't know. I like to think I'm relatively humble.
I think so too.
Oh, absolutely.
Very
much
so.
so.
All the time, you're so humble and
Down to
nonchalant
earth.
about everything that you've done. It's just like, how are you not?
Very
That's
down
why I
to
hate
earth.
the name dropping. Bob De Niro told me one time that see, that's the joke. See, because I would just name drop when I said not to name drop. So,
That's good irony right
that
there.
is actually a Rob Paulsen joke too. So I stole it from Rob. But so I was back in Columbus. There's no animation there at all.
Really?
I started dating my now wife, who I knew her from high school, and this was it was Facebook love.
Wait, really? It was online?
It was, yeah,
No
because I was just on Facebook or whatever, and she joined a divorce group, and I'm like, oh shit, someone else going through the same crap I'm going through.
Yeah.
Now I had no intention of dating her. And, of course, she says, oh, I had every intention. And, yes, you did, too. And I'm like, no, I promise I didn't. I'm glad we did. But, but she was living in Pittsburgh. And so I was driving back and forth between Columbus and Pittsburgh. And then I ended up moving in with her. And then, my kids were still in Columbus. And so I was constantly driving back and forth. And then at one time, her name's Lisa, she said, why don't you get a job at UC? And I'm like, how the hell is that going to happen? And also, because I didn't have my degree either. So since I dropped out of school, I didn't have a degree. Yeah. And then she said, well, I'll get a meeting with President Ono. And I was like, oh, yeah, right, whatever. And
that's
she
a big
did.
Deal.
She did.
How did she make that happen?
She name dropped. Yeah. And so we had a meeting. It was just myself.
Sometimes it's a good thing.
It's so cool. Yeah, I know. It was me, President Ono, and my daughter, because we used that as a trip, for her. And so it was really cool. I mean, he was.
Yeah.
Were you guys here when he was?
I
here?
was.
Yeah.
He walked around campus all the time.
He was a
and
rock star.
he was
He
humble.
was.
He was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to him, man.
Yeah.
He's
I know.
he's so great.
He was awesome.
He eat at all the local places.
Yeah,
and
and he'd tweet about it too.
Yeah.
Oh, he was taking pictures with us. I mean, it was so great just walking with him, and students would come up and say, "Hey, can I take a selfie?" And that was so cool.
Yeah.
Right.
But he actually leaned over to me and said, "What's your degree in?" And I said, "Funny you should ask.
Yeah.
I don't have one."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, how close are you?" And I said, "I don't know." And so he goes, "Let's look into it." And at that time, they were just starting the DMC. He was just formulating that. And so he goes, "Well, let's talk about you finishing your degree and then coming to work here." I was like, "Sounds good to me."
So, oh, really?
Yeah.
For
'Cause I
those
had
for
been
those who don't
teaching.
know, what is the DMC?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Imagine having Mike Gasaway, one of the writers and animators of Jimmy Neutron, just in your class.
Yeah.
It's
weird.
Just like,
Yeah.
What have you worked on?
I know.
well, you know.
But for those who don't know, what is the DMC? though?
DMC is the Digital Media Collaborative, and up until last year, it was a collaboration of Arts and Sciences, CCM, and DAP.
Yeah, they're all very good programs at
Yeah.
UC.
Yeah, and what's nice about that is that if you want to major in like digital media, that you can come to DMC and then you can work on a lot of different things. Because like if you come here in engineering, here's your 6 classes you got to take this semester. Here's what you're going to do your junior year.
It's mapped out. Yeah.
For us, it's a lot looser.
Mm.
You know, as you guys know too, is,
Yeah.
you know, here's some of the classes at what course that you might want to go and what track you might want to do.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, we're evolving. I mean, you know, we went through a couple of controversies with the previous leaders that
Oh,
they're
really?
no longer here, so we don't
Maybe
have
wins.
those problems.
Hmm.
Even though we still have an article in the Inquirer, which
Yeah, my
was
dad.
like 2 years
my
ago.
dad found it like a couple months ago, and he was like, "What kind of program are you in?" And I was like, "Dad,
It was
Dad."
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I think we're in a good place right now.
I think so too.
You
From
know, so it's
the outside looking in.
and especially new students that are coming in. You know, it sucks though because, you know, for the graduating seniors, it's like I wish it were a better program for them for sure, because it is getting better. You know, our internships are getting better, but we're trying to do everything for them too. You know, just because you graduated or are graduating doesn't mean like, oh, we forget about you.
Yeah.
You know, we want to say,
Right,
hey, if
yeah.
there's an opportunity, we're still gonna.
UC's
help you.
really good at collaborating with their alumni.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Collaborating in general. That's something amazing about this school is how involved they are in like practical senses.
Oh yeah.
Like you need a co-op, you need a job, you need to network. The professors here are super, at least in my experience, super jazzed about connecting me with people. I don't know about
Yeah.
you guys, but like
Yeah.
every time I set a meeting with a professor, I leave with like 5 contacts. You know what
That's
I mean?
awesome.
Which is great. But I mean, how long have you been here now at UC?
I think this is my 5th year. Well, what year was that? No, 4th year maybe then.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've known you for like 3 years
Okay.
because I was the spring semester of my sophomore year was your first intro
Yeah.
into animation class.
Yeah. So then this is starting my 4th year then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, how obviously I'm sure you enjoy it, but like how has it been?
You know, I do. You know, I've been teaching online for about 14 years for something called animationmentor.com. And how that started was one of my friends that I knew from Warner Brothers a long time ago.
Really?
He was an animator at Pixar.
That little company.
Yeah, that other little company, Pixar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he and 2 other guys from ILM said, we want to form this school, this online school, and really teach from people that are still in the business. And so he asked about 13 of us or 14 of us, something like that. And I said, oh man, absolutely. You know, this is what animation is really
Yeah.
being a mentor. And so I started doing that, and it's online, you know, so you don't have the same connection. You can't reach out and
Right.
touch. I know you're not supposed to, but I kind of do.
Yeah.
But I like being in the room and helping people. I like to say, scoot over, let me drive. You know, here's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. You know, I like doing that.
Right. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a great way to learn. It's more tangible.
It
It's
is.
easier to memorize.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me, especially, to learn everything based off of a video or an
Yeah,
audio
yeah.
recording, or let alone reading a textbook. I mean, that's just it's a lot to ask for someone to just fill in the blanks based off of pure information. Whenever that tangible sort of information, that collaborative feedback you can have with the
Yeah.
professor is far more useful.
Absolutely.
It's usually what can help you get a project off the ground too.
Yeah,
you
it
know,
can.
having that feedback, which kind of reminds me, because we were brainstorming some questions. Allison was wondering if you remember the question, feel free to chime in. Was there ever like a project you had at any time in your life, whether it be a show or movie or
I thought of that question because I was thinking of the seahorse.
Oh my
That
god!
like anything that you just couldn't get past the producers
This
or
is
make
really
it
a
through.
therapy session now, isn't it?
Wait,
Yeah,
really? I
let's-
had no
let's
idea what I was getting
Bring
into.
down the lights, bring out
Allison,
some candles.
Allison sent this question to me earlier, and
Yeah,
she's like, "Wait,
because
ask him
I
this."
immediately.
Did
'cause
I
always
cry
think-
when I first told this story though?
I remember
might
you
have.
pulled up the picture,
Mhm.
and we were all like, "Oh my god, that looks like a really cool movie poster."
Fill me
with us,"
in.
and
Fill
you're
me in
like,
on what's happening.
All right, guys, and it took the whole class time. You just talked
Oh
about this
my
movie, and I was like, I can't believe it didn't make it.
Well, it's
Yeah.
only a 2-hour show, right? So
we got 50 with a 0 more minutes. So
Well-
like, what the hell? Wait, fill me. I have no idea what you're talking
okay,
about.
so
Yeah.
when Neutron was over, so so we did by the way, I want to clear something else too. We didn't get canceled. We just didn't get renewed. See, that's a little
Neutron.
bit positive way
What is
of
the-
looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like they said, we're not going to do it anymore. They just said, we're not renewing you. So I think that's more positive. Cancel
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
so bad.
Yeah,
you know,
it
so
does. It
Can't,
does.
I guess the canceled is like something's wrong.
That's
we have
what
to
it
stop
seems
it.
like, yeah. But and the reason that I think it didn't get renewed is because we were in Dallas, Texas. So we weren't right down the street where if we had an issue to fix something, they couldn't, even though they
Right.
could have made a phone call.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it wasn't I just think that it was some excuse to because it's not inside their house. That was it. Which I don't understand, but that's my little
Yeah.
rant about that. But what had happened is, so we were done with Neutron, and most of the team had already moved on to the movie Ant Bully. And
Yeah.
so that was with Warner Brothers, and with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I
so Playtone
remember.
Records or
Ant Bully.
Playtone.
That was a
Records,
good one.
Playtone. Yeah. So, but the problem, there was like, I think 350 of us at that time, 300, 350, something like that. And only 2 of us in that building that was not working on the Ant Bully. So we were working on development. We were trying to work on some other projects that we could possibly do.
Yeah.
And then the 2 founders of the company said, we're looking for a multi-picture deal with Warner Brothers. And so here's the next picture. And there was the screenplay about a seahorse.
Yeah.
And so the thing is in the seahorse world, and this is true, that the male gives birth.
Yeah, that's
Right,
true.
It is
Fucking wild.
scary looking too, because
Oh,
it looks
yeah.
like he's
They
gonna
ju-
die.
They just start shooting
Yeah.
out.
Oh my god! Yeah, they're shooting at tons of them. Yeah, like hundreds of them. Yeah.
I would argue that there's not a form of birth that isn't kind of scary.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Especially, have you guys seen the one where it's like the frog and the baby just like crawl out of its back? Oh my
man, what
god!
the fuck, man.
There's literally just like holes in the frog's back, and the babies just eventually climb out. It's the weirdest looking thing.
I am putting that in my next film.
There's literally a phobia that has developed whenever like footage of those frogs releases, like trichophobia or something like that.
Really?
God.
Literally, there's a genuine phobia of like holes, things coming out of holes that people have gotten since that frog got exposed.
Oh my god.
Well, there's your next animated horror
Oh
idea.
my god. I
But, like,
know.
Seahorse. I never. You were working on a project called Seahorse.
Yeah,
though.
and so I got the script, and I loved the story, but the script was not solid. And this is by a screenwriter that had written a ton of stuff,
Really?
before, and she's really great. And it just wasn't working, because like the thing that we're talking about with animation, you can do 2 things with it. You can go too adult or you can go too kid. So you're
Yeah.
either talking down to the kids or you're not talking to kids at all.
Right.
And this one wasn't talking to kids at all. I
That's
felt.
interesting.
Because I mean, they had the main character get drunk. Well, first of
Yeah.
all, gallivant around and have sex with other females. I'm like, 2 things. No,
Wait,
that
really?
you can't.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's not a kid
And
script.
we weren't going for an adult. An adult picture.
You needed a kid.
Well,
You needed.
right.
You
Yeah.
need a kid script at
Yeah.
the time.
And so what I did was, as a director would, is you get the script and I put it down on index cards. So every sequence that there was.
Yeah.
When Charlie gives birth and and all this kind of stuff. So I put it all together, and then I saw what didn't work on the script and said, okay, let me fix this and let me make it better. So in other words, I didn't completely change the script. I just made the idea and the script better.
And by
Right.
and like
Story is
and
still the
tailored
same.
and tailored to your audience more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, the getting drunk part gone.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, hey,
Going around
Rango.
infidelity gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, bro,
Exactly.
Rango got away with quite a bit of things.
A
Yeah.
little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
but this was long before that.
Yeah.
So, and at that time, like I talked about my friend who released his film. It's an adult film. A couple of characters get killed, and he pitched it when we were at DNA, and I remember saying, man, I really want to see this, but American audience is not ready for that yet.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it still isn't because it's just in New Zealand. I hope it gets released here. I hope it does well. But I think, back then, no, really wasn't.
So what, after you went through and you did rework it
We
and kind of
did,
gutted
yeah.
it?
We worked on it for about a year and a half.
The script.
yeah.
You worked on the script for a year and a half.
The script, the writer kind of, see, I don't know how much I can say about that, but
Yeah,
I
no.
said it in class.
Yeah.
So they
Again.
kind of shielded me a little bit from the writer. And the reason is, and I totally understand it, is we were trying to get a multi-picture deal. I had never directed a film before. Even though I directed all the big Neutron stuff and everything like that, they wanted to make sure they got a multi-picture deal. And so they never told Warner Brothers that I was the only director. So
Yeah.
they had two other directors, which was the two owners of the company that were going to do it. And they're both like, we don't want to do this, but we're just going to put our name on it just so they're not. I know. It's like,
Stuff like that probably happens a lot.
it sucks. It
Yeah.
sucks.
That's
because-
awful.
Yeah, because the thing is, neither one of them wanted to make any decision. That's fine. And I like both of these guys a lot.
Yeah.
And I understand why they did it, but it was still hard for me because I'm
Right.
like, wait a minute, I'm doing all the work.
It was a
here.
passion project for like a year and a half, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so we did all the artwork. We had 12 different artists from all over the world, which is so cool. And like talk about that blank piece of paper. I said, here's what I want. I want this. I want an edge on a bubble.
Yeah.
Imagine if you have a bubble and you have an edge on it, and the artist's like, holy shit, and they were starting to draw coral reef with an edge on it. It looks
Wow.
so cool. It
Do you
looks
have some of that
so
artwork
cool.
still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, just to show it. But what ended up happening was we were working on the script. I mean, oh man, I told the whole pitch story, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm sorry,
I'll
Allison.
try to
it's
leave out
Allison's
some
fault.
parts. I know. I'll try to leave out some parts. We eventually pitched it to Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
We had, because we had to repitch it. John Davis did a great job with this where they greenlit the script and then they took the green light back. And they said, wait, the script still needs work. And John did a great thing where he said, how about if you give us some money to work on the art while we're working on the script?
Yeah.
And Warner's did. And so
Really?
that was great that
Nice.
he
Yeah,
got a
that's
chance to do
nice.
that. Yeah, and we ended up spending like $1.5 million on it, I think, for art. And so we did all this artwork, but they wanted us to pitch it back to him to say, okay, let's see if it's going to go to the next level.
Right.
So we did, and they're still working on the script, and I'm just going to be vague about that part.
Yeah.
So the script is still being worked too, without me. Okay, so I'll just for that part. But the artwork was being done with me.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, our artwork doesn't look what the script is saying. So it's different.
Right. I
You
mean,
know?
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely feed off of each other. It's
Yeah.
hard to have one without the other.
Exactly.
Well, and
So-
the art direction too. I mean, that's based on what you're going to see.
No,
in the
there were
script.
sequences
for
that
production
weren't
design.
in the script.
Really. So you guys
Yeah.
had a lot of production design drawn out
yeah.
that wasn't existing at all.
Exactly.
You're
not
given
in the
so
script.
much money to just do what you guys felt passionate about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then once
exactly.
you finally
And you
put
see
two and
that.
two together, it was just like, shit.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you would have known from the beginning, you could have did so much more.
Oh my
I mean,
God,
you,
I know.
you do
I
see
know.
that sometimes with. I mean, sometimes when there's studios that are just throwing money at projects. An example is Rogue One. I have a bunch of Star Wars art books at home. I'm obsessed with.
I'm shocked by that. By the way.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's Ralph McQuarrie's art books or some of the newer ones written by Peter, like Rogue One, like half that book is full of artwork that you would not even be able to connect to the movie just
Oh, yeah.
because the script, Gary Whitta's original screenplay went through a lot of changes and they had
Yeah.
different ideas for the movie, and it's like when you have concept changes, your production design is going to completely change.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's hard. Yeah, it is heartbreaking. But if you know it from the get go, that's a very different process. When they were doing that, they knew full well, like we're not
Some
throwing.
of this is going to be out. Yeah.
Yeah, like they weren't necessarily throwing spaghetti at the wall. They just said like we're going to just kind of go, how big can we make the spectrum so they can
right.
pick and choose the what they want from it.
Yeah,
But that's
and-
not what this was, right? This
No.
was just a bit of a lapse in communication for the project that was happening, I guess.
We'll go with that.
That's I'm just
we'll go with that.
the gentle answer.
That's the PC answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we pitched it, and because we flew to LA to pitch it, and the head of Warner Brothers at that time loved it.
Really?
Loved it. Yeah, because here's the thing: is that we had all this artwork. We
Yeah.
also had little statues, little maquettes made of two
Nice.
characters.
Oh,
And
really? That's
I
cool.
wanted to see what Vince Vaughn's voice.
Wow.
You didn't,
look
you
like-
didn't mention Vince Vaughn. Wait, Vince Vaughn
Well,
was on the project?
No.
No,
Also-
they just wanted to see what his
I wanted to
voice.
see what it looked like
Yeah.
coming out of my character.
Yeah.
And so I picked up a bunch of lines from his movies, and I animated like 3, and then of course all the animators were working on Ant Bully, and so
Yeah.
they're like, I want to animate anything else but ants at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and so they
Yeah.
you know, we had our awesome rigger who's at Pixar now. This guy is fantastic. He rigged, I want to say in 2 days.
Do you know
rigged
his,
a
do
seahorse.
you know who it was?
Mike Comet.
Yeah.
He's freaking awesome.
Shout
I
out.
think he's still in Pixar. Yeah. So he did it, and then I started animating. And then, of course, when other animators see that, they're like, I want to do that too. And so they
Yeah.
did some. So we had some test animation too. So we're in this pitch, seeing this amazing artwork. And then we bring out these statues, these little characters, and they're like, holy shit. And I'm like, hold on a second, play. And they saw it, and they're like, at the time, they were shooting Fred Claus
Yeah.
with Vince. And they're
Right.
like, and this is so funny. This is just the whole Hollywood. Oh, Fred, he's working on Fred Claus. He's one of ours, and he can. I'm like, what, whatever. And then
No
I'm like, holy
way!
shit. So
Funny.
I forget his name now. The head of Warner's. He turned
Yeah.
to John and he goes, "So how much money do you need to go to animatic? Like 6-7 million?" And I went,
Wow.
"What?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit, we did it." And he goes, "Oh, but I got to read the script first." And we all went, "Fuck."
Yeah.
Yeah, because we knew it just wasn't the same.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And they weren't willing to do conceptual changes. It's like, or because
Well-
you do have your animation, you have the idea of the project, like no
I
rewrite
think the
time.
final nail on that coffin was then the Ant Bully came out, and I don't know if you remember when it came out, but Ant Bully came out, Monster House came out, and Barnyard came out
Wow.
Yeah.
within 3 weeks of each other.
Pretty
So
solid
Ant
films.
Bully got killed.
Mm.
You know,
Right.
as far as revenues, it got killed.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
put 3 animated movies back to back.
Yeah.
You know?
That is
Yeah,
weird.
That's too much.
Yeah.
They send
it's too
that's
much.
like sending it out to die almost.
It really did.
Yeah.
And so that Seahorse project is now officially shelved
Damn.
or in turnaround,
Yeah.
which
Man.
never will see.
Can
the
you
light of
just
day.
not even look at seahorses anymore the same
Oh no,
way?
I've got a ton of seahorses in my house.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, because the worst part of this story is that when I was told I was going to direct it, I was with my previous wife. It was our 10-year anniversary, so we went down to the Caribbean, and I'm like, "Fuck, dude, I'm going to direct a feature film, a $40 million feature film, by the way, too." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hell yeah!"
Yeah.
So I bought every little seahorse trinket I could
Oh
find.
my goodness.
And then
now they're all
my
just-
second to last day, I called my producer and I'm like, "Hey man, what's going on?" He goes, "I probably shouldn't tell you." And I said, "You fucking better now." I said, "Because
Yeah.
he goes, yeah, I'll just wait until you come back." "Oh, you better tell me now." He goes, "They took the green light." And I was like, "Fuck," so.
As
Yeah.
you're
But
staring
that was
at
at
a
the beginning.
seahorse statue.
Yeah, a $200 seahorse statue that I just purchased.
Just breaks it over his knee.
Yeah. I still have them all.
Just out of curiosity, I don't know if this was a Warner Brothers film or not, but how long after that got shelved did Shark Tale come out? Another ocean.
Oh, no, it was before.
That was
It was
DreamWorks
before.
too.
It was
Oh,
DreamWorks,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Long before it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you mean that? Did you ask it on purpose? Because Allison is like the biggest Shark Tale fan of all time.
Robert, there's huge
Stop.
actors. And
There
he
are.
had no
There
idea
are.
when I was like Robert De Niro. He was like, "What?"
Yeah.
He was in
tried to
Shark
she's
Tale?
been trying to get me to rewatch Shark Tale for way too long. And it's not gonna
It's not a
happen.
bad movie. It's not. It's
That's
not.
not awful.
I remember the
It's
car
amazing
wash
how there's
scene.
these huge people in it,
Yeah, I
and
know.
nobody
It's-
like
it's
talks
more-
about
it's
Will
movies
Smith.
ever.
It's more
Yeah.
just me trying to bug her.
Oh, gotcha.
I did like the creativity of that movie of like whales coming into the car wash. I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
hilarious.
I mean, talking about like that whole process fascinates me,
Mhm.
and I don't even mean that in an insensitive way, because like you're like it was kind of not ruthless or brutal, but like that was just like there was so much passion and like
Oh my
being
God.
told no a lot, but like
Yeah.
what is the ideal way to pitch something like that? I mean, and I know that's a loaded question, but
Yeah.
like is there a right way
Or like,
to
have you
sell
noticed
TV.
like techniques that have worked?
for selling TV shows or even a movie pitch? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like in your experience.
It's well, I'm still working on mine to pitch.
Yeah.
What
What are you working on right now?
It's a horror film, live action. It's $1.5 million film, and we just got a soft okay from an actor. I can't say who she is,
No,
but
that's fine.
just because her agent's like, you can't say anything until you have money, but she loves it.
Really?
Fuck,
Can you
she's
say-
so good. I can't.
Can you say anything about the film?
Yeah, it's a horror film. What we're saying is it's Friday the 13th meets Jeepers Creepers. So it's basically
I
that's
fucking love
the
it.
little
Sign
thing.
me the fuck up, dude. I
Yeah.
love those
I
kind of
know,
movies.
I know, exactly.
That's the best era of horror film.
It's one of those things. Have you seen Hereditary?
Yeah.
So what
Ari
I like
Aster.
about my god, yeah. So what I like the most about that is that it's going down one path, and then as soon as the event with the car, when that happens, all of a sudden it takes a left turn, and you don't know where the fuck you're going.
Nice
and
pun.
that kind of happens with this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He took a hell of a turn, dude. Yeah.
Watch out for the pole ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
I get it.
It became that movie became kind of a family drama in a way, which is what's really brilliant about that. It's like, oh, we're not just psychological horror. Now we're a drama movie. And but I totally get that. I mean,
until the mom's crawling on the ceiling.
Well,
It's a
yeah.
little fucked up.
That's one of my personal favorite horror movies of the past like 5 years.
It's
I
really well
think
done.
it's great.
I think a lot of people share that sentiment. I mean, for me, like whether it's Ari Aster or Robert Eggers coming out on the scene, and he did The Witch and The Lighthouse. You know, it's been a great year, a great like revitalization for the horror genre in the 2010s. I mean,
Don't forget Andre Overdahl.
no, I wasn't. I could
yeah.
name a bunch of people. I mean, I could name a lot of people. I mean, even like Jordan Peele getting into it.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of people.
Man,
There's a lot of like big names trying out this genre. But have you ever thought about doing like animated horror or anything? I mean, again, back to the Lima Bean. That scared the shit out of me.
It's so funny. You know, I've been asked that a lot. It's like, you know, so because my two favorite are animation and horror. But really, you know, my two favorite are comedy and horror. You know, and so like I've written 20 scripts, I think.
For comedy and horror?
Both, yeah. But my favorite is a black comedy or a dark comedy, really.
Yeah.
And that's the film that I want to do third. But it's like, Sam Rockwell, would you please, if you're listening, please stop winning awards.
Yeah.
You know, because he's so good, but now he's so damn expensive.
Yeah. You wanted Rockwell for the
Yes,
for this project?
for this other project that I wrote.
He's great too.
He is awesome. I mean, I wrote it for him, and it's so funny. This will show you how my kids are. My youngest is as soon as Sam won the Academy Award 2 years ago or a year ago, whatever.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
She texts me and she goes, "Good luck getting Sam now."
Fuck
you fucking.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's like
crazy. Rockwell's always been a good actor. People just kind of slept on him for a while.
I know. Just watch Moon. That's all you gotta do is watch Moon.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I mean, he's got so like you, but still though, like animated and horror, you've never thought about doing it together.
No, not really. I mean, I think you can get away with a little bit more, you know, with that maybe. In
I would
animation.
love to see a terrifying animated.
That's my
Yeah.
dream. My dream is to work on a project like that,
Oh,
an
yeah,
actual
yeah.
like terrifying animated horror picture.
Because sometimes you can get very like something I've like disturbing. Because again, you can do anything with the imagery, and you're not questioning the reality of it. Like a show like even like Attack on Titan, which is one of the most popular animes right now. The way they design the faces of the Titans on that show, it's horrifying, and just that alone gives it a sense of dread. I'm like, if you can double down on the horror.
I think so, but you know what? Here's the thing that I think, at least from where I come from. I love the blood and gore. I love it. I love the splatter. However, I think the scariest horror is the stuff you don't see.
I agree,
You know,
100%.
It's the stuff that you're like, what's in the box? What's in the box?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff that's so much better.
Well, your favorite movie of all
know.
time does that better than any other movie, I think.
Oh yeah.
Which is Jaws, for anyone
Yes.
wondering. The other day, Mike comes into the lounge, the film lounge, and this is not an exaggeration. Dude has like a 15 by like 8 foot rug, and the rug is the movie poster art from Jaws. And he's just like,
Which, by the way, the top half is like white. So as a
Can't
rug,
be a
it's-
rug.
he's
I
just like,
still
where
have it rolled up in my office. I don't know what to do.
he's
with
like,
it.
where do I put this? I'm like, I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. That's where, but like, I feel like with animation though, you can be, because again, the unlimited creativity you can go. Because I do love a character running from the monster we can't see.
Yeah.
So like in terms of like how they're running away and how creative you can get with that, and like being able to animate just a figure of something, and like leaving it up to your imagination. You can get it. I see why you mean it could be challenging, but I think that could be. I think
Well,
it could be done.
like our creature in this film. I mean, if I could just do that part animated, oh my god, then I don't have to worry about it, because now I'm like, okay, how do we practically show this demon? You know, how do we, you know, this Lovecraftian kind of demon? You know, how do we do that?
Oh, you're going a bit Cthulhu with it?
Oh yeah. Well, not Cthulhu necessarily, but in that kind of realm.
Okay.
You know, for sure, definitely.
I'm a big
Lovecraft.
fan of the Cthulhu mythos, so that's the only stuff I've read from Lovecraft.
So we've got 4 films that we're actually calling it. What are we calling it? The quadrilogy. You know,
Oh,
they're
hell
4
yeah.
completely different films. However, there's something with the demon or something else that makes them all connected. And
Oh,
so,
really?
like, I'm even putting stuff that in a short film that I did, that we're going to try to do that as a feature as well. It was originally written as a feature, and then we did a short of it.
Yeah.
That demon is actually going to be in the same realm or same world as the demon in this film.
You're making a cinematic universe with a
Yes.
demon, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
and,
exciting.
and it's cool because like what Ari did in
Hereditary?
In Hereditary.
Yeah.
If you notice, I think when the mom is walking through town, there's a couple that walks past them.
Yeah.
And that's the couple that is in Midsummer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, the
Holy
couple in
shit.
Midsummer.
Yep.
I did not notice
Holy
that.
shit! 4 or 5 years before he filmed it? Are you kidding me?
I didn't know
Yeah.
You
that.
knew.
Yeah.
That's
How
really
did you
cool.
feel about Midsummer, by the way? Just quickly.
Okay, I love the gore in it. I thought that was great.
It was really effective.
I was a little
'cause it was
trippy.
The
sparse.
psychedelic stuff was fantastic. in
I
that
watched
movie.
it with my 17-year-old daughter, explaining that sex scene. I'm like, oh, yeah, and it just kept going and going. I'm
Right.
like, oh, good, okay,
Yeah.
Reese,
I
sorry.
I thought that movie was so incredibly well shot. I mean,
It was, yeah.
Ari's a visionary with that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. He really is. But I mean, yeah, it was just the plot that kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
It was hard to get a sense of where it was going. and that,
I thought it was,
And
I thought it
it's
was
good.
fine. I
But
mean,
for me, like it was not a unique cult movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I could
it
tell.
wasn't as
I
unique as
could-
it could have
the
been
whole
for
time,
sure.
every 5 minutes, I'm like, this is gonna happen next. This is gonna happen next.
You know, it's one of those. The way I really judge movies is like, do I want to sit there and say, just keep rolling, go again, go
Right.
again?
Yeah.
You know, and that wasn't.
what do you
one of
mean
it.
by that?
Okay, so when I watched The Incredibles, you know,
Great.
when the credits were done, I was like, I'm not moving. I'm just gonna
Ah,
wait for the next one. I'm gonna watch it again.
Well,
know,
okay,
right from
that's
it.
a good pick
You know?
because
Right.
that is one. I always go back on it. That's my favorite animated movie ever made because it's like, I mean, oh god, that movie had the biggest impact on me. It's either that or The Iron Giant. I mean, those movies.
Oh
just,
my god! Try not to cry. Still,
What
at
do
the
you,
end of that.
I mean, do you have a top 5 animated movies of all time list? Do
Ooh,
you,
wow, Tangled is number one.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
I never in
Yeah.
a million.
Yeah,
I never would have guessed that either.
because the animation is so good.
Especially
Very
her hair.
expensive
Oh,
too.
Her hair is
Good.
awesome.
Oh, I know.
That's notorious for not only being some of the most expensive animation, but also being one of the most. The return on the money was some of the best of all time for
Yeah.
Disney. So.
But you know what? I go to the animation part of it because Glenn Keane was a part of that, and you know that was really his, and it was his baby for the longest time.
yeah.
And the animation is just so good in it. I mean, I used clips of that in my acting classes.
The
too.
horse is so greatly animated.
Yeah.
Oh,
in the film,
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
the way you're. So if it's going to be like top, and if we're going to base it off animation, then like I guess let's put shows in there too. So in terms of like animation, if you had a top 5, because I want to
Just
ask you your
animation?
favorites too.
Oh
because
yeah, yeah.
I, like,
Okay, so
because-
just animation. Definitely Iron Giant for sure. Like I
Mhm.
said, I defy you to not cry at the end of that film.
and it's so good. The
It's
movie,
so-
because like for me, we were
Brad
talking
Bird.
earlier.
So 2 Brad Bird films in the top 5.
Oh, for you,
Incredibles.
and for me,
yeah.
it's especially. I mean, and arguably 3 because Ratatouille is so good. But like for me, it's like I have my best animated of all time list, which like you can look at some movies that were just innovative. They're inventing techniques and like they're just, they're gorgeous because of the animation. Or I'm just impressed with the film itself, like a movie like Ratatouille. And then there's like the ones that I love that are near and dear to my heart. Like what are the ones that are near and dear to your heart?
You know, we actually kind of talked about this right before we went on air too. I'm not the biggest animation fan. You know, which is so weird. You know, I
Yeah.
love doing it. I love studying it. But when an animated movie comes out, I'm just like, meh.
That's
You know,
funny.
I'm not huge into it.
That's how I
You know,
felt
not
about
like
the-
horror.
That's how I felt about the Addams Family animation that came
Oh,
out. I was like, you guys are really gonna do
why?
this?
Why? Yeah.
Right? Like why?
I don't
Well,
know.
even what was the other one? Transylvania, Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah.
Really?
How does that
Yeah.
have 4 movies or like 3 or something?
No,
like that?
I like the story of like those. I didn't like, but I loved the animation because
I
the
did too.
attention to detail and like the way they're slightly moving fingers.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
you
very
know, that
well
so much
done.
work goes into that.
I
Part.
used to
Oh,
I used
absolutely.
to show that I had a job at Best Buy once. I feel like every time we record it comes up. It's a meme now. I worked at Best Buy, guys. But I did, and I always showed
Just
a
one time at Best Buy.
yeah. I always showed a demo from that movie because it was gorgeous. But I guess then, all right, then at that point, then yeah, what are your top 5 animated films then?
Oh, let's see.
Based
If
on-
I have to, let's see. There's 3, right?
Did not expect it to be
Three.
Tangled.
You know,
Like,
I got to say too. I keep going back to either Toy Story 2 or Toy Story 3.
Toy
You know,
Story
which is
3
weird.
was such a surprisingly good movie.
I
to
know,
me.
but I like 2 because it was an interesting take.
Right.
in
You know,
terms
and
of
how
story,
these
you mean?
characters- Yeah, because here's these characters. First of all, we didn't need any exposition,
Yeah.
for that. Toy Story was good, but there's so many things about it that I didn't like.
Really?
And here's the other thing is too with a lot of Pixar films, and sorry to all my friends that work on it, because they have, in my opinion, terrible trailers.
Yes.
You know, because
Yeah.
you watch it
I
like,
agree.
here's the one that's gonna flop. Finding Nemo, that's gonna flop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That movie, that's in the top 5.
I agree.
Definitely
I agree
Nemo.
with their marketing being that way because, it's almost like it's just like an animation reel that's a bit
Right.
underwhelming.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
It's
I
like
don't know.
everyone is somewhat in the same. They should put more effort to make each one look far more unique from the next.
But when I
I
was
think.
I'm trying to think back to when I was a kid, being the target audience. And when I saw the Incredibles trailer for the first time, I was excited and I laughed. And the teaser was Mr. Incredible. It's like the Giacchino score comes on. It's epic. You see his face. He puts the mask on, and then it cuts to him being super fat, trying to put the belt on.
Yeah.
And it's the rest of the trailer.
I
Is
love
Mr.
it.
And then I'm
Yeah.
like, this is awesome. So like sometimes they do nail it on the head. The Wall-E trailer was beautiful too.
Wall-E, what a great
but-
animation.
But if you
movie.
remember the Finding Nemo one, I mean, it was just like, wow, this looks beautiful. And I was like, here we go. And a lot
Yeah.
of people said, this is the one that's not going to make it. And
Yeah.
holy cow.
I mean,
Thank God everyone was wrong because it was really good.
for me, it's Toy Story 3. Their trailer was just so bad.
Have you seen Wall-E? Just out of
Yes.
curiosity.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
You know, I really like it because, I mean, as an animator, that would be awesome to animate.
Right.
You know?
I mean, they
What's
did-
my
they-
line?
they-
There isn't one.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Right, yeah. Right. I mean, all the colors in space,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're flying out there, I love that scene. The rustic overtones of the planet that he was
Oh,
keeping
yeah.
trash on. It was
Yeah.
I love that movie.
The
What a great
portrayal of
animation.
humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Pixar had I mean, there's still always some fantastic movies, to be quite frank. I know people like to give Pixar a lot of shit for being like, oh, they're not in their heyday anymore. I'm like, dude, the fact that they're still making good movies, and they just had a thing of like, from in the 2000s, they were making unbelievable movies.
Yeah.
I mean, literally every time it came out, not only was it a hit, it was innovative, and
Oh,
it was an
yeah.
original screenplay, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
they were
was
just
great.
breaking barriers every time, man.
Absolutely.
Something something I wanted to do real quick, which just to get some certain things out of the way. We have about 30 minutes left for anyone listening. And I wanted to just do, and I don't know if you guys are cool with this, just shoot him some rapid fire
Oh,
questions.
God.
And because there's some topics I know we're not going to get to that I'm just like,
Okay.
just give me your thoughts on them. Not even questions, just be like,
Just like a sentence return?
no, man, like,
Okay.
I can tell you, I'll just,
Whatever,
move,
I can give you a
you
paragraph.
want to do a sentence? You want to do a paragraph? Go for it.
I can just
All right.
move on to the next one when I'm like,
Okay,
all right,
yeah.
we got it. Because like
Okay.
I wrote down all these things where I'm like, I want to ask him about this, but I'm like, we probably won't get. Like for instance, one of them was working with Phil Lamar. Like
Yeah.
Phil Lamar, he was in Pulp Fiction. He's the one who gets his head blown off in Pulp Fiction. He's one of my favorite animated characters of all time, the Green Lantern from the Justice League series. What was it like working with him? I mean,
I only worked with him shortly because
Yeah.
Bolby Stroganowski.
Yeah.
And that was it. To see
Yeah.
that come out of his to see that voice coming
his
out of
deep
him
voice, yeah,
is weird.
really, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so I didn't really get too close with him or anything like that, but he nailed that.
Yeah.
Nailed that character.
All right, yeah. See, that's
Yeah.
perfect. See, we're
Yeah.
rapid firing. So, in terms of the characters on Jimmy Neutron, was there a decision behind their birthdays? And because like they kind of the zodiac signs and like how they line
I
up.
don't know. That probably John Davis. I don't even know.
Because,
I don't even know the birthdays.
Well, like Jimmy's being in March, right? Like it kind of aligns like with their character traits in terms of zodiac signs. So I was just
Oh.
curious if you knew anything about that.
I
Have
know
to ask
myself.
John that. I don't know.
What's the deal with Sheen's mom?
That's probably another John question as well.
Like
Yeah,
we
because,
never see. Is she dead?
I don't know because it was always his grandmother.
Or his
so,
father who dressed
yeah.
up like Ultra Lord and things
Yeah.
like that. And I'm just like, God, I'm assuming like she's just
Like, even-
out of the picture in some way.
Even when we did with Planet Sheen, because the whole idea that I did not like about Planet Sheen was, come on, here's a kid that is going to be gone for how long?
Yeah.
So we came up with the idea. Said, well, actually, in Earth time, it's only a couple minutes, so he's really not that far.
Hmm.
Yeah, but to a kid, he's gone for a couple years.
I read this one theory that when he came back, he went to jail. Sheen. He got put in juvie. It's a
Juvie?
big video.
Is it really? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
There's a video about how when Sheen comes back, he gets put. I think it was, no, it was the voice actor behind Carl. What's his name again?
Rob Paulsen.
Paulsen's podcast. He
He
jokes
said
about. He said it. He joked
Oh
about the
my
fact
God,
that
that's
when
hilarious.
Sheen went to juvie once, and he said
That sounds like something Rob would say. Actually,
he actually he hosted an episode of his podcast voicing Carl. Like the whole
Oh, did
episode
he
is
really?
voiced as
Oh,
Carl.
My God.
And he said something like Carl had a crush on Cindy too, or he was just saying a
Yeah,
bunch of
well.
things that were pretty hilarious. So, can you talk
I
about
love Rob.
Can you talk about the theme song a little bit for Jimmy Neutron? We did it off air a little bit, but like,
Yeah.
who did it and
Bowling
like
for Soup.
Yeah, Bowling for Soup. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
1985 is one of my favorite pop songs of all time.
It's so great. I mean, I didn't really have anything to do with that, honestly. But it's so iconic.
The theme song,
yeah,
dude, yeah.
And they even say this is the theme song.
We started singing it.
I talked about it last night. I was like, no one else could get away with like putting that in their theme song.
So I have
this is the theme song, Jimmy Neutron.
It's so weird that like all of us kind of had this weird, I guess it's kind of creepy, but this moment where we all started finishing the sentences as we're singing the song.
Oh,
We
really?
do it. Literally, we would go back and forth like knowing the lines of the song.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's crazy how that kind of thing sticks. So yeah.
Well, you just hear that opening.
Oh yeah, 3, 2, 1.
Gotta blast.
So iconic.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'd hear it from the kitchen. I'm like, Mom, Neutron is on.
It is.
I got a blast.
It is super. It is really. It is really iconic. You did that?
Oh yeah.
I always was yelling.
This is just
"Bring
last
blast!"
week, by the way.
Yeah. No, you're not joking. If you know him, that's true. For me, I was always yelling "Bring blast" all the time, obnoxiously. How often do you get that shit thrown at you?
I hate that part.
No way,
Yeah.
really?
Oh my
Wait,
God.
you don't like it?
No.
So you don't like Brain Blast?
No,
It's one of my
and
favorite
most of us on the
things.
show, we were just like, oh, we have to do it because the thing is, it's like, okay, now we got to go in through his ear, which we already had animated, but now what are the 3 or 4 things that we got to put in there? And to me, it slowed down the show.
So it was an executive decision to put Brain Blast in there.
Oh, it was John for sure. I mean that was probably a big because isn't that in Runaway Rocket Boy? I think it is. I'm not sure.
I think so.
I think it is. I want to say it's definitely a John.
Which again,
Davis
Runaway
thing.
Rocket Boy is kind of like the pilot in a way to Neutron.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so funny to me because it's just like when they asked Steven with SpongeBob, he hated the fact that he had to go to boating school because Nickelodeon wanted SpongeBob to be relatable, and they're like, yeah, he's a fry cook, but like kids go to school, like you need to find a way to make him go to school.
Yeah.
And they're like, this guy's like 20 something.
Yes,
All right,
license, yeah.
So and Steven really hated the idea of that, and I'm like, dude, boating school is a top 5 SpongeBob episode for me. So
Oh, yeah.
it's funny
So
how
funny.
it's funny how that works. Some of the stuff you guys
Yeah.
really don't like is
Yeah.
iconic.
Yeah, it's weird.
So you just didn't like having to do that.
Yeah, I felt like it slowed down the show.
The think
You know?
in what way? Like in terms of like
Think.
the
Wait,
pacing?
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
like,
such
all
a
right,
trope of the
step
character.
the brakes on
It's
it,
so
yeah.
funny because did you guys love that? I love that. It's like a trope of the character.
Right, exactly. That's the
I
kind
mean,
of function it served.
I never
It was
really
just like
thought about it that much.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's just iconic. You know.
I was
Well,
just ready for like what was gonna happen after that. I was like,
Oh,
all right,
yeah,
get
yeah.
through
How was
it.
he gonna
Like,
figure
all
it
right,
out,
Brain
yeah.
blast. I need to
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
like what's gonna happen
oh,
next.
okay. Yeah, shoot one, Logan.
I got a question from a friend of mine, Nick,
Okay.
who he wanted to ask. Were you trying to get kids addicted to candy by making the purple candy look so damn
I had a
delicious?
friend
Flirt.
ask that too. All of the and Purple Flirt, dude.
Purple
I had a
Flirt,
friend
yeah.
specifically ask me about Purple Flirt. Oh
I
my
mean,
god!
it's a genuine question. I mean, I know for a fact every
We-
time I saw it, I was like, Mom, do we have
Seriously.
candy?
I think the thing is, you
Seriously.
know, like for any artist that was working on it, it was just like, how good can we make it? That's it. You know, not like, can we get everyone addicted? Like, here's some cigarettes, kid.
Right.
Well,
Of course,
dude, no,
of
no,
course.
but like, it's funny. Like, Fine Bros Entertainment, this YouTube channel, they do React videos. They're FBE. You can find them on YouTube.
FBE.
Yeah, Fine Bros Entertainment. They have a video of people who are now grown up, like our age, who are eating real life food from 90s and 2000s animation, whether
That's
it be
awesome.
like the Krabby Patty and things from the Fairly Odd Parents and
That's
Purple,
weird.
you know, and like the chocolate from Rugrats. And it's just funny because like I do shout out to you guys as animators because dude, my mouth is watering thinking about Purple
I know.
Flirt.
That's what I'm saying.
And the candy that Jimmy Neutron, like the bubble one, the one that
it
made
had
him
no
bounce.
business looking
You
that
don't understand how
scrumptious.
weird this is to me to hear this.
Dude, really? Dude, what's the one where he ate it and he became the bubble? Because
Yeah.
I used
Oh,
to
yeah,
I
yeah,
used
yeah,
to imagine that. I had moon boots. You guys remember moon boots?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I would get just a whole fucking 6 foot of gum.
Oh my god.
The whole hubba bubba, right? I'd throw it in my mouth
God.
and I'd be bouncing around my street, man. I'm like, I'm Neutron, dude. You know, like I literally did all because of that scene. So that's crazy. I guess that is kind of weird.
Yeah,
for me to
it's
probably hear.
it is just weird just to hear that.
I'm glad you brought that up because so many people have asked me that. Oh yeah, is Cindy? Is she adopted on the show?
I don't know.
That's another
I don't
one.
Know.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Again, it's a theory It's because from her hair color and eye color in terms of her parents, right? And then
Yeah,
her
yeah.
not being born in like Vegas when the show takes place in Texas, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, the show does for sure. I mean,
Oh,
it's
really?
basically it's based on Dallas, you know, for
Yeah.
sure. Because I mean,
okay.
that's
That's
where those
cool.
guys were from.
I mean,
Yeah.
you guys had the surroundings around you to establish
well,
and help you with
and
the
the other
setting.
thing is too is the Christmas episode first wasn't going to have snow, and I mean that's what I did. I did the Christmas one. And that was the one where Mel Brooks is funny because he's very Jewish and he was our Santa Claus. I just love
That's
that.
so hilarious.
We love that irony too. But the thing is, when the show came in, I remember talking to producers and saying, "All right, I have this big idea for Santa's workshop, and it's going to take a lot of time and money. So can we not have snow?" And everyone's like, "Well, it's Dallas, Texas. It doesn't really snow. It does sometimes, but it's not necessarily a white Christmas."
Right.
And the producers agreed and said, "All right, we won't have it." But if you remember the show, that I did this musical number near the beginning where the kids were actually doing snow angels.
Yeah, was that the one with all the
In the
crazy,
grass.
transitions?
Yeah.
That's what I still remember that specific special
Yeah.
because of you guys got really experimental with your transitions. I remember
That was me,
Miss
yeah.
Fowl just swooshing in front of the fireplace. And
Yeah,
stuff like
in the
that.
fireplace dropping.
Is that weird for you to hear? That I haven't seen that since it aired, and
No,
I
no,
remember that still.
Now I got to tell you that I kind of like because I'll take full credit for that and my team
Sure.
doing that because we planned all that out. When I heard it was just the song, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I want to play with all these songs.
Well, why? Yeah, what made you guys get? You guys have never done transitions like that ever on the show, right?
Well, I do.
Have you
did.
people
Yeah.
swooping into frame like that?
There's-
I don't remember it standing out like that.
There
as
was
much.
another one. I think it was Winleys and Kaboom when they were breaking into the. I think it was that one because I used the Mission Impossible theme to that, and so I had picture within a picture. And then there was
Wait, you guys
part
had the license to the MI theme, the GHD
No.
theme?
Here's the crazy thing. There was another song by Outkast called "Hey Ya"
Yeah,
that I
of course.
used, and that was another one with transitions. And first, I talked to my composer, and I was like, "All right, I really like this song. What can you do?" And he goes, "Oh no, we can. If I can't remember the rule, how close it can't be."
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, I'll do it." And so like, hey, like the Vanilla Ice thing.
Right,
No,
right.
it's no. My song is dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it was just similar, so the beats had to happen.
That's
and
funny.
so he just made it feel like it, without copying it.
I just like I said, those transitions stood out. Something that's huge on the internet right now. There's a petition. It's called literally Nickelodeon Renew the Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius for another season. It's gained a lot of ground. And
Has it really?
There's the season 4 rumors, not only the season 4 rumors, but the rumors for there being an eventual sequel as a feature-length film for Jimmy
Yeah.
Neutron. I mean, you want to
Yeah.
elaborate on any of that?
I haven't really heard anything. I mean, there was some talk that there was already episodes. This is years ago. That episodes had already written for season 4. That is not true.
Really?
Now, if they've done it within the last few years, maybe. I don't know.
So because this is the thing. There's a YouTube video that came out like 5 years ago, has a ton of traction. And they're a credible source too, so their information must have been. It's like Channel Federator. It was like the 105 Jimmy Neutron's facts video, and they said that like, season 4 was going to have like an episode featuring just a female cast for an episode. There was going to be a time travel episode, like all these specific things
totally
about it.
untrue.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because
I remember seeing that too, and I was like, no, that never happened.
And if
There's
they
a lot
did-
of things that
It's
weren't true.
it's just what the people want.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean-
exactly.
Well, and
Exactly.
say like in
Will it?
theory, like did like they went ahead, they like wanted to do it. Would you want to work on it, or would you?
Which one though, the show or the movie?
I hate to say this, but no. And the reason
Really?
is because there's no way we can get the same team.
Hmm.
And that's what it was. I mean, it was a family, and I mean,
Yeah.
I loved everyone that worked on it. And like one of my lighting supervisors now a head lighter at Pixar. He ain't coming back.
Yeah.
Right.
He's awesome. So
It's weird because I mean, look at what Nickelodeon's doing right now with Netflix. They brought back Rocco, they brought back Invader Zim, and they did a Hey Arnold movie on for Nickelodeon. Like they're revamping.
was it the same writers though? I mean, so that's
I
the
don't-
big thing. I bet it's not.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that they are rebrand, and they're not ordering
I'll give you-
episodes. They're
I'll
just
give you
doing
an
a
example.
special.
Okay, so
Okay.
if you want to go like real world, okay, so is Neutron and Planet Sheen the same?
No,
No,
not
I
at
wouldn't
all.
say so. No.
Completely different writing team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with it because I was still the same. I mean,
Yeah.
some of our board artists were still the same. And this is not
No, I get
cutting
what,
down the writers at all.
I get what you're
But
saying.
it's just totally different.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what would happen.
Well, you see that with some shows that stay on air too long.
The magic just simply
look,
wasn't there for Planet Sheen. in my
Arrested
opinion.
Development season 5 or whatever.
Well,
or
I was
4.
hitting close to home with Nickelodeon, with just SpongeBob after Steven left the project.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, because his idea was 3 seasons in a movie. You know,
Yeah.
it reminds me of Community, 6 seasons in a movie or whatever it was. But yeah, because Steven wanted to do the 3 seasons and then the film, and then Nickelodeon's like, no way in hell are we stop. You seen our merchandise?
We're printing money,
Have you
dude.
seen what we're getting with merchandising alone?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, SpongeBob was like a Mickey Mouse for them. So
Yeah, oh yeah.
yeah, I mean,
He
but
kind of
anyway,
is Nickelodeon's Mickey Mouse in many ways.
I'd say he still is, yeah, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There's like a like I said, a Mount Rushmore. I mean, you could think, like, again, I always go back to the first Nicktoons Unite game when it was Neutron, Phantom, Turner, SpongeBob. And I'm like, at the time, and I'm like, those guys really stand out a lot.
Yeah.
But just wanted to bring up the rumors of any revitalizing for Neutron, and if you've heard anything.
I haven't, so.
Pretty credible source there, folks.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to
Not
ask.
that they would have me. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? The other thing have you heard of the Brooklyn Nets point guard Jeremy Lin cutting his hair to look like Jimmy Neutron that one time? Yeah, you
that
saw
was
that.
Great. Yeah.
That was super cool.
That was so cool. And like the whole Conan O'Brien thing too.
What did Conan
What did he do?
O'Brien
Well,
do?
Conan O'Brien, I mean, a lot of people would say that he looked like Jimmy Neutron. He actually said that was a cool thing, and I believe that when we were working on the show, he said that. And so that was when we were like, "Hey, we made it!" you know?
Right, yeah,
Not
Conan
realizing
O'Brien.
millions of kids have seen it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
never
hilarious.
Yeah.
I never caught that. So yeah, Mike. I mean, we got about 10 minutes or so left. I mean, you said you're working on the horror project,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, what all is going on in your life right now? Like, what can we expect from the
Oh my
from
God!
the future?
The biggest thing is I'm doing this. I own a software development company now, and I just started it. In April or May.
What kind of software?
It's pre-production software for films.
Yeah.
And so we're calling it.
Nice.
It's called Filmatic, and we're calling it the foundation of film.
Hmm.
And basically, it's previs. So it's something that filmmakers have always done, but it's a different way of doing it and a much better and quicker way of doing it. We went through the pre-accelerator program here at UC. We raised $330,000 to.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got that. We've got a CEO and we've got 3 developers right now.
Yeah.
And man, the stuff that I'm seeing that one of the developers just started December 1st.
Really?
And it is killer.
You said we taled about it a couple weeks ago. You said it's a pretty fresh project,
It
right?
is.
Is-
Man,
is-
I'm so excited about it.
Is the aim to make it like nice and accessible to
Yes.
new coming filmmakers? That's
Yes.
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
because we're going really after the independent filmmaker that doesn't have a ton of money to spend on something and said, how can I would love to make $1 million film for $70,000. How can I do that?
Right.
And so what this does is this will really cut down their time quite a bit, because like my film is $22,000 a day,
Yeah.
and I cut it from 30 something to 20. So I shaved.
And that was one of the
$600,000
reasons you
off
wanted to do this? Because like,
Oh,
what made you just
yeah.
sit around and be like, we should start a software development company? You know?
I will give a shout out to who probably never listens, Craig Vogel, who is actually here at UC, and I showed it to him,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Why don't you sell this?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not because I was using Maya and I was using Premiere and
Yeah.
Excel and my
Maya.
own
You guys are
writing.
using Maya.
Yeah, but then I was like, okay, maybe we can do something. And then I found a developer, and he's like, oh, I know exactly what to do. And so that's what we've been doing, and it looks amazing. We're actually starting alpha testing next week.
And can you say what it was
Sweet.
called again?
Filmatic.
Cool.
Good name.
Yeah.
That is a pretty good name.
Yeah, we're actually going for a patent for something too. It's
Oh, no
weird.
way.
It's so
Oh, nice.
weird.
That's
yeah.
a weird feeling. Can we patent this show? Can we get a copyright? Because there's some other AVHDs out there, and I'm like, oh, hell no.
I know.
No.
If anything, we should try and trademark the word podcast. We could get a lot of people.
Yeah, there you go.
That's like when Sony tried to trademark like the X button or something, or like the
Oh,
cross.
wow.
What was it they tried to trademark for PlayStation? They tried to trademark something
Oh wait, you know,
unbelievable.
does anyone you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all
Okay,
do.
so you know when you go down the bottom and you scroll it and it does that little bounce?
Yeah.
That is a patent.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Wow.
Yep.
You can kind of
That
patent
makes sense,
anything.
though. It kind of
Yeah.
makes it fun.
Yeah. That's a patent.
Dude, let's put our heads together and patent some stuff. Like I said, you're.
Let's get official on this bitch.
before we start to wrap up, what you just?
I said, let's get official on this biatch.
Oh, that you said something else. We do you guys have favorite? Do you guys have favorite moments from Neutron or even Barnyard or back? I know Logan, you were telling me once about the playing the guitar moment and
Yeah.
covering the "I Won't Back Down" song stuck with you as a kid a lot.
Yeah. From Barnyard.
I Won't Back Down.
No, that wasn't one of my shows. It wasn't one of my shows.
Oh,
It was a
the-
movie.
the-
It was in the movie.
Oh, in the movie. Oh, yeah, yeah.
When
okay.
Sam
I didn't work
Elliott.
on the movie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, now I do remember what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. Sam Elliott's sitting there singing.
Yeah.
I love that scene. And I will also. There's a character we haven't talked about at all on Jimmy Neutron. Goddard. The
Oh
dog.
yeah.
I was
Frank
talking about,
Welker.
I brought Frank Welker.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I was
Yeah,
using
you're
I was using inside talk.
There we go.
I know Frank Welker very well, clearly. So yeah.
and some inside stuff too. The guy who it's hi, I'm Paul. That's Paul Clairhout, who is and he's a board artist, and he designed Goddard.
Wow.
Yeah. He's working on Bob's Burgers right now.
Oh
No
wow.
shit.
Hi Paul.
Hi,
I love
dude,
that.
Paul. Hi, I'm Paul is one of my favorite things about the show, and it's
Hi, I'm
ironically
Paul.
not even in any of the episodes. It's just one of the funniest things ever. You
And
wait
why
a-
a three-eyed monkey?
I don't
Why?
know.
That was John. John's
DNA.
like,
Well,
"It's
DNA.
funny."
Maybe they mess with his DNA.
It's
No,
funny.
he just said it was funny.
It's
That
funny
was it,
because like
seriously.
a small little thing like that, literally even after a show ends, most people are like, okay, whatever. They're like,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
we're not sticking here for the credits, but literally, I would stick around TV just to see that monkey say, "Hi, I'm Paul."
That's why we did a few different ones too. That for that reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it not only does it have them stick throughout the credits and give everyone recognition, but like it helps the company be more memorable.
What about you, Allison? You got any standout moments?
I mean, just Hugh in general was just one of my favorite characters. But there's
Yeah.
like this one, I forget what episode it is, but like this delivery truck crashes and there's a bunch of pies in there.
Yeah.
And when he goes in, he says a lot of funny things, but then he comes out and he's like, "I will live." And it was just like, I think about it every day of my life. Like, I
Really?
just thought that was so funny, and I still think it's hilarious.
It's hard to pick him out because sometimes
Yeah, because he was depressed right before that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, yes, pies.
Something to
sometimes
live for.
sometimes there's things that go viral from like a lot of those Nickelodeon shows. They kind of embedded themselves, and they didn't even mean to, into meme culture.
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah.
there was a video that, and I think this is why it might be the hardest I've ever laughed. Maybe I'm laughing thinking about it. It went viral on Twitter, and it's the moment where they're in class, and I saw it out of context on Twitter, and it was just like, "Hey Jimmy, I drew this frog," and Jimmy's like, "That's great, Carl."
That's
And
great,
the
Carl.
frog is just a circle with two legs, and it's colored green. That I think is the hardest I've ever laughed on the show. Like I was just
I love Carl's line after that though, because Jimmy said, "Oh, I'm designing this," and he goes, "Well, that's nice too."
yeah. Carl, like I said,
Yeah.
Carl might be one of my favorite
There's like
characters
a
on the
scene.
show.
I forget what episode it is. Jimmy's like asleep or he's knocked out or something, and Carl was like, "Jimmy, answer me. Give me the answers for 5C through 11A, just so I know you're okay."
That's right. Oh, by the way, one of my favorite things is on one of the shows where I can't remember if Carl asked or Sheen asked. He's like, "Hey, Jimmy, I've been meaning to ask you. Is like, how can we breathe in outer space?" And then we cut to something else, and so you can't hear him.
Oh, I
explain
remember
it.
that.
Right.
And then
That's
we come
awesome.
back, and he goes, "Oh, okay, that's good." what just happened?
That is so funny.
Great. You know, I think it might as well be worth throwing in there. In high school, more specifically in like freshman year, I was a bit more round. I had no beard and I had short hair. And
Oh my
hot
God.
dogs in your hair?
You can guess.
Oh my God.
At the lunch table, literally out of fucking nowhere, my friend Brandon says, "You know who you look like?" And he shows a picture of me on his phone. He's like, "Carl." I mean,
my
like literally.
God.
Luckily, it didn't spread too far. Not everyone was going around calling me Carl, but just I had a
Too
few
late
friends
now.
that just loved to throw it in there.
It's gonna happen.
I
a lot.
look nothing like Carl now. Back then, you could make a case for it, but not
now.
anymore.
What-
Does
now.
Carl have a full name? I know Weezer's his last name. Does he have a
Is
full
it
name?
Jay? Is that his middle?
I know
initial?
Sheen and
can't
Sheen and
remember.
Carl don't have like middle names that I know remember. Right?
I know Sheen has like 5 names. I can't
Really?
remember what they are. Yeah.
I was surprised to even find out he was like because he was based off like an Asian, right?
was
An Asian
actually
American person.
Aztec. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
well,
he-
no,
and he's
you're
a
right. Yeah.
But he's a Latino
Actually,
character.
So here's the funny thing too is that Sheen was originally Asian, and when we were
always
putting
kinda thought he
characters
was.
together, we would say, we had to populate like the background stuff like that, and so we'd like, use that character, use Asian Sheen, and stuff like
Asian
that.
Sheen.
Yeah, because it did look like him, but
Yeah.
he was Asian.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
I-
funny how they changed.
I
It
honestly
is.
always thought he was kind of Asian. Like I always personally thought he was
Aztec.
like a mixed,
Yeah.
That's
or
hilarious.
something like that.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, Mike, this has been a blast. Thanks for
Awesome.
coming
Oh,
in.
nice
This
try.
has been great. Oh, you're right. That was on accident. See, it's embedded in my mind. The conditioning. You've conditioned me. But no, seriously, this has been so much fun. I mean, this is our first official episode for the show. I mean,
Oh, cool,
yeah,
cool.
we're launching with this. We've done a couple pre-shows, but we wanted to save the first episode for this. So,
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
It's
you
all,
so
it's
much.
all
Seriously.
downhill from
Can
here.
people follow you anywhere? Are you on any social media? That's all down.
Thanks, I
Mike.
am the more I am on Instagram. I cannot remember the name on there or whatever, but because I'm kind of social, kind of not.
Yeah, but they can type in Mike Gasaway.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
and
I'm
they
sure
find
not
you.
many other Mike Gasaways will show up.
There's about 7. I think we followed each other
something.
recently. So
It's
all
weird.
right.
I have like a Google alert, and like there's one Mike Gasaway who's a catcher in Iowa or something like that. So I get his.
That's hilarious. Well, in any case, man, thank you so much. This has been the AVHD podcast. Anything covering multimedia, movies, TV, games, all of that. We're going to be talking about it. I've been one of your hosts, Hunter Burris, with my co-hosts Logan and Allison, and again, Mike Gasaway. Thank you guys so much for checking in. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram at AVHD_podcast. Thank you guys so much.